All right, we're on. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday, March 12th, 2024 Board of Selectmen or Select Board meeting. This meeting will be broadcast live and recorded by Foxboro Cable Access. Chief Kelleher, we're going to have you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance today. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since half this meeting is about you anyway. All righty. Anybody here for citizens input? Go ahead, sir.
I got 2 compliments and I got 2 complaints. Before I give you the compliments, I want to thank you for what you do, and I'm thankful that I'm not sitting up there with you, because I know how hard your job is.
Thank you.
All right, the first compliment is the acting VSO, Lauren Burrell. She does a great job. People at the VFW have told me, and I'm in the American Legion, and they've told me, and I've witnessed it, and so I just wanted you all to know how well she's regarded, in the town with the veterans groups. Second compliment, the police department have a youth police academy lined up this summer, quite a syllabus, and I want to applaud the police department for that. So 7th, 8th, and 9th graders, anybody that has a kid or a grandkid, I would recommend this for any kid. It's 2 weeks, and obviously the PD can give you, I think they've already been up to the middle school. I think that's one of my grandkids told me. All right, complaint. I'm not sure it's a complaint, it's a misunderstanding. The policy on ambulance runs, which I personally had to use once or twice, and my wife a number of times when she was alive. So they tell you Good Samaritan, or they tell you sturdy. I went to Good Samaritan with my lady friend in April, was in the ER for 32 hours, 8 hours after she got admitted. And the ER was an absolute zoo. I saw fire departments from multitude of towns in a queue, sometimes 10 or 15 minutes before they could even talk to the person on the desk. So I'm not sure what the law is, the insurance and stuff. And we have that Patriot Place, Brigham and Women. A lot of people in town go up there, have a string of doctors like I do. And I do think that within the ramifications of the laws and the insurance and stuff, we need to consider hospital runs to, the best hospitals in the world. People from all over the world come to the Boston hospitals. So that disturbs me. And I believe that they got a big presentation to the fire department, which they're going to give you, and that's probably not in it. But I think down the road they should be looking at that and doing some studying on that. And my last complaint is I didn't see on the agenda for tonight, and I'm hoping that somebody makes an announcement in their part in terms of the availability of the Church of Latter-day Saints on Main Street. I'm getting killed with senior citizens all over town for that. And in addition to that, I'm a strong advocate of the recreation component for things for the kids in town, particularly the adolescents. And at that, if you have any questions for me, fine. If not, you know where I live, 4 Adams Street, Paul Dumas.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Somebody took my chair, huh? I don't tell.
Next up, Fire Department, 705, the Commission on Fire Accreditation International, and I'm going to turn it over to Paige. She was intimately involved with this process.
Yes, so we invited the whole fire department to come. Some guys got pulled away to work, but we wanted to acknowledge not the big cheeses only, but the whole system that goes into making this organization so great. I got a firsthand experience to see what a big deal these guys are. They we have here, I'll hand this over to the chief. He's already seen it, but it's an accredited agency award. You want to hold that up for the cameras, and I'll just explain what it means. Be a Vanna White there. So the Commission on Fire Accreditation International accredited agencies are often described as being community-oriented, data-driven, and outcome-focused. They exemplify organizations that are strategic-minded and well-organized, are properly equipped, staffed, and trained. It's an international recognition of achievement. It shows the community that our agency is continually doing self-assessments, looking for opportunities for improvement, is transparent and accountable, and they've been verified. All of this has been verified through a third-party verification and validation process. So 2 weeks ago, a group traveled down to Orlando, and we didn't really know what a big deal it was. Well, these guys did, but it was a big deal going down there. There were 22 people sitting at tables, asking questions, grilling. These guys were very well prepared. There was a team there, and there's a picture. So it was a big deal, and they were celebrities walking out of there and we were the first. So what are the stats? First in Massachusetts, third in New England. So everybody was thrilled to hear from these guys and to have us represent New England and Massachusetts. And I don't know if you guys want to say a few words, but I think, the Chiefs did a lot of the work, but all of these guys deserve to be recognized for all the support they provide and make these guys look great.
Yeah, I think what you're seeing here is, the culture of the Foxborough Fire Department, and it's not one person, it's a team. So, obviously we're well represented here today, but I think culturally we're kind of firing on all cylinders and moving in the right direction. So this is just another accolade to kind of verify that we are firing on all cylinders and moving in the right direction. But culturally, again, it's not one person, it's the entire organization that's moving in the same direction. So, it's nice to be recognized. I appreciate the kind words.
Yeah, as the chief said, so this was a culmination of over 3.5 years. We had COVID hit. We had a multitude of people, business people in the community, residents. We had members of the select board part of this process. And then we did an internal analysis of our operation. And there was a multitude of people that were involved in this, and without all their help and assistance, this would have never happened. So, as Paige so eloquently stated, we all went down there. I will admit I was the most nervous. They weren't inviting us down there to say no, but still, you didn't want that, one no on the board, and we were unanimous with the entire commission that was there. So it was pretty exciting, and the town should be very proud of all the work that everybody put into this.
Outstanding. Yeah. Any questions? What? Oh, we can give them, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Just want to do a quick picture.
Yeah, we should do a photo.
Do a photo.
Yeah.
You guys want to come up?
Yeah, tall guys in front.
That's the first.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna be in the middle page, you have to be in the middle.
You gotta be ready to go.
Where's the, over here?
On it.
We're gonna have to do a second round.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
Go in front.
Get together.
Big step forward. Hey, come on in front with the chief. Hey, come on in front.
Guys, here, I got an iPhone. Like, this is way too big. This one, we move over more, yeah.
Next to that one.
Come on, this side, smush in a little bit.
Come on,
Smush.
pose
Keep
it.
coming.
Oh, that's sweet. Thanks. Let's go.
All right, smile. Okay. Thank you.
Great. Great job, guys.
Thank you for letting me embarrass you. I have your, hold on, let me give you your plastic wrap.
So words never feel like enough when we hear, all that goes into this and all that goes into the department and the culture, from the top down. And, I know sometimes I hear about things that happen in town that you guys deal with, like as first responders on top of everything else. And just know that from the bottom of my heart, on my behalf, each and every one of you guys is so appreciated and recognized for everything that you do. So thank you so much.
Great job. And on that note a little bit, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to add something because we had a citizen's input in terms of Good Samaritan Hospital. And yeah, I come from the healthcare industry, so very much aware of what's been going on out in the environment because of Norwood Hospital being down and Brockton Hospital being down. And now all of you have had to carry that on your shoulders. So it's not unusual at all that you're going to have these backups in hospitals. But you all have been doing a great job. I come from that industry. I know what you're holding together here. It's a very fragile system right now. Brockton's coming online in about a month, so that'll be better. Norwood, who knows? But I want to acknowledge it's recognized what you've been doing to hold this very fragile system together, the pre-hospital care system together. So I just wanted to say that while you're all here. Thank you.
Seth, good?
Yeah, I'm appreciative of the team. I'm looking around, I know recognize a lot of faces, and, it's, what you guys do is important. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, and you know what? You brought up a good point. I'm going to have Chief, we don't usually discuss anything about citizens' input because it's not on the agenda, but I think you brought up an important enough point as was brought up, that maybe Chief could just say a couple of things about the dynamic of where they are now in today's healthcare with the small amount of hospital ERs out there.
Yeah, I mean, if we look back over the last 20 years, I think we've lost about a dozen hospitals from about Boston South. So it's certainly putting pressure on the healthcare system. As an emergency medical service, we try to accommodate people to go where they want to go, but there's factors that come into that, the patient's condition, time of day. Obviously, if we chose to send an ambulance into Boston at 8 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that ambulance is going to be lost for 3 to 4 hours. I can tell you that the conditions that were experienced at Good Samaritan are cascaded across the Commonwealth, especially down here in southeastern Mass. The pressure that's being put on the healthcare system now, especially with the lack of Norwood Hospital, it's extraordinary and it's unprecedented. So, we always try to take people where they want to go. But again, like I said, there's a multitude of factors that go into those decisions, primary being the patient's condition. That's our number one concern. So if it's something that we feel would be appropriate to go to a closer facility, if it's something involving, obviously cardiac, stroke, things like that, we want to make sure that we go to the closest hospital. We're actually mandated to go to the closest hospital in certain cases. There's cases where we have some leeway, and then we take into consideration travel time and what the traffic outlook is, obviously, because we have a responsibility to the whole community. So.
Chief, can you talk a little bit about, because knowing you, and I know you and I have talked about this, advocating with our state leaders as well, you have been in touch with Barrows and you have been in touch with Feeney about these concerns.
We've been in touch with Barrows, we've been in touch with Feeney, we've been in touch with the governor's office. I've done some news stories to try to put pressure on the Department of Public Health to try to even look at alternative ways to deliver health care, things like maybe transporting to an urgent care. Those types of things with lesser acuity of medical conditions, but unfortunately, it's kind of all fell on deaf ears. It's just challenging times, and it doesn't seem to be getting better. It seems to be getting more difficult.
Yeah, but acknowledging how you've thought outside of the box.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We're trying very hard to work. It's just, as far as the Department of Public Health, there's just not much movement. There's a lot of politics around healthcare in Massachusetts as well. We have, there's different entities, different factions, different, like urgent cares were set up to kind of circumvent some of the more traditional hospital functions. They don't have to follow the same rules as hospitals. So, there's like I said, there's a lot of politics around how all of that, the healthcare industry functions and how the, the insurance payers and everything is all, everyone's kind of lobbying for their own position. So we're kind of stuck in the middle. So there was a news story on Fox 25 last night about insurance and ambulances and them not being in insurance companies' network. We're not in anybody's network. It doesn't make any sense. The story was baffling. So it's kind of funny. They were taking shots at ambulance providers. It's like, we're not in anybody's network. That doesn't, we have no provider networks. That's, so hope that kind of addressed the issue.
Yeah, thank you. And one other thing, I mean, just from a healthcare point of view, and correct me if I'm wrong, every one of the ladies and gentlemen in this room, they're all paramedics.
Yes, that's correct.
Which is phenomenal.
Yeah, we're
which is great.
very fortunate in this community to
So
have
no matter whose shift is on, that they're going to get good care.
Oh, absolutely, top-notch care.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
have to do one more embarrassment. I think Andrew Pertini, you missed out, didn't you? Did you have to leave? So we just want to call out Andrew. Were you gone during our little? So I know he did a big bulk of this work too with the whole team. So he had to leave during the clapping. So just want to kudos to you. I know you were a key member of the team.
Just for you. All right, great. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for all the hard work you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, again, Paige.
Another feel-good story. Maura, come on up. Come on up to the front. You're in the hot seat. So, at long last, the town manager's office is complete. We have Maura Buckley, a Foxborough townie, born in town, I hear, even born in town, delivered by Foxborough's finest, I believe. So Maura has joined us as the communication specialist. Her first day was just yesterday, so she's getting quite the introduction to everything Foxborough, but we wanted to bring her to your attention, let her know, let you meet Maura. She won't be attending our meetings unless needed, but I'll give you each a homework assignment, and I'll let you think about that. But Maura, do you have anything you want to say, or do you want to explain why you were interested in this position?
I mean, I love Foxborough, of course. It's where I was born. It's where I grew up. So I'm super excited to be a part of this team and be a part of, bringing the town hall closer to the citizens. And I'm just really excited to be here and be working with all of you. So if you have anything communications, any issues or concerns or anything you want to, enact, please feel free to let me know.
So that was my homework assignment.
We all go to homework.
I thought it might be helpful for Maura just to hear from each of you just what your priorities relating to communication might be. Obviously she can't do everything at once, but it's always good to know what the policymakers, where their policies lie. So I don't know if you want to give her some insight into what's important to you.
I can go. I mean, I've been on this one for years. So I think the biggest thing is how to make information easy to digest for citizens. So I think right now we're kind of all over the place. The fire department may have their way that they distribute information. DPW may have theirs. The town manager's office may have theirs. But really, unless you're familiar with it, you may not know how to navigate there. There's no kind of one-stop shop to just go get all this information. Being able to subscribe to newsletters, agendas, minutes, so that things are pushed to you rather than having to go out to the town's website to look at it, I think is huge. And then also, however, we can help our volunteers in town. So volunteers are so important. How can the town manager's office make their job a little bit easier, a little bit more organized? And then also when citizens go out to look at information from those particular boards, as well as our traditional departments, how is it, are they getting the information the same way? Is it up on the website? Is everything consistent? Is everything available? Can they self-serve? So department liaisons, I know I texted Paige something over the weekend. I came up some notes from 2021 that were communication related, so I can send those to you as well. And I'm happy to dig in and, meet with you individually as well, so we can get this communications plan rolled out.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
She has it, by the way. Okay. I delivered her the whole folder.
I'm working my way through.
Dennis, anything? Yeah?
Well, one of the things I've noticed actually is we have, and you'll find this out yourself, probably know it already, we have very good local coverage through the newspapers. But their function isn't to promote, the town and promote, all the excellence that exists department by department. And so having somebody that can take what's going on and make sure it's out in the eyes of the public continually so the residents know the excellence that really resides here in the town of Foxborough and all the people that work here. Good example was this award.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
front page stuff. Another good example, I'm just saying off the top of my head today, out of left field, we got $1 million grant for the source. You know, that's a big story, you know, and recently the budget got a top honor, you know, in the state because of budgeting excellence. I mean, I could go on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good things that happen here. Excellent senior programs, terrific senior programs. Didn't forget you, Mark, over there. But, you know, I don't think enough of it gets out.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, I think the newspapers do really a good job, but it's not their job to really promote what we're doing here to the benefit of the residents of Foxborough and get more of their input. How could we be even better? So,
Yeah.
Thank you,
Absolutely
Dennis.
agree.
Seth, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, just my thought, Maura, welcome, first of all, Maura. And my thought around communications is that, as you know, communication is a two-way street. So we want to share information, and we also want to receive it from the community in terms of what the goals are for the town, what the strategies are, what our vision is for where we're headed. So just having that two-way dialogue with the community is something that I'm thinking about.
Awesome.
Steph, do you
Welcome, Maura. Well, first of all, I know Maura. I've known Maura for a very long time, since she was a little girl. Very excited to see you join the town
thank you.
team. Unfortunately, I was at a funeral today. I didn't see Paige's email till about 5 o'clock.
We'll let you, we'll
5
give you a
o'clock this
pass.
afternoon. But everything that everybody said, it sends, and I'm very technology challenged, so I have a hard time navigating the town website myself. And so I'm sure there are other people. I know Leah's been big on this for a long time. So I'm sure you're going to be great. And yeah, just getting the information out to everybody. Matter of fact, I don't know if anybody else noticed it, but I did get an email this afternoon that the agenda wasn't on the town website. I don't know if that's true or not. I kind of tried to pull it up, and so anyhow.
I'm on it now, so it's
somebody got
definitely
it
there.
bookmarked. Yeah, somebody showed me, they sent me a screenshot.
It's on the
left-
second page. You have to click to
Oh,
the next
okay,
one because there's so many meetings
Maybe
today.
that was it, you know. And I thought to myself, oh, wasn't this funny? Because Maura's going to be here tonight. We're going to be talking about it. So, no, I wish you good luck.
But that's a
I'm
great
sure you-
example, educating
Yeah.
people where they need to go.
Yeah.
You know, to find that, to self-serve,
Exactly.
to make it easy.
Yeah, I'm very excited for you. I think you're going to be great here.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I've known you for a long time too. What, 4 weeks now since your dad introduced you to me
Must
4
be.
weeks ago? that was kind of fortuitous. That was nice to meet you then, and
It was.
and to hear 2 weeks later that you got the position, which is
Had no
great.
idea, right?
You know, they all did a great deep dive, and at times they make fun of me of also being a little IT challenged too. So for me, it's as simple as, you know, taking a look at our website every day and making sure the stuff on the front of that is accurate. You know, there were times where some of that stuff was on there for 2-3 months after the event happened. So I think that, you know, would lend to people not really looking at it because the news is old news, just
Right.
keeping that front page up to date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Katie's done a fabulous job carrying the torch for the last few months on
Yeah,
top of all of her
absolutely.
other responsibilities. So I'm sure she has lots of ideas, you know, how we can get information, you know, back from citizens and out to citizens as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, Katie really, just to acknowledge Katie's finally handing over the torch.
Yeah.
She's been the one woman running every single element of our department since, so.
Yeah, big smile.
She loves being on the spotlight, so. But yeah, so now we have the full team, and we're thrilled to have Maura. And this morning when she came back to work, I was like, "Oh my God, you came back! Thank you." So happy to have her.
Happened a couple of times on my way in, actually.
Yeah, everybody's wondering. Yeah. So
Well, great, good luck. You know, reach out to any of us if you need anything, and
Absolutely
glad
will.
to have you aboard.
Yes, thank you guys so much.
Thanks,
welcome.
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 All right, next on the agenda, fire again. Chief, take off.
He might have just moved,
He
so
might be right out.
folks could get out.
we have Chief Kelleher
We can always
handy.
skip to the
Here
stage.
he comes.
Okay.
I was going to say, he was just there.
The stage person probably
I
wants to
think
get
he
off.
got called out to talk to somebody. Chief, you're up.
Chief, back up again. All right, so we 2 weeks ago decided to right before the actual budget, we're going to be talking about a little bit later, give Chief the opportunity to make a quick presentation about adding one more firefighter, paramedic to the staff. But we're getting a clicker.
That'd be great, because there's an animation, so I try to wow everybody with
He also has PowerPoint skills.
my technical abilities.
He's got skills.
Point it to the back.
All right, thank you. See, I just want to, so kind of, everybody was kind of curious, was like, what does this mean, right? So that's kind of what I really tried to boil down and answer tonight. So one thing I want to reference is when I first became chief, Bill Keegan and the the select board at the time commissioned a study to kind of give me a roadmap to follow as your new chief. So one of the things I want to highlight that they recommended, and again, an independent group of consultants recommend that we should be at 10 firefighters per shift by fiscal year 28. So we just got to 9 a shift on 2 shifts now, and we were going to go to 9 on all the shifts July 1st, but that has been since cut from the budget. So one of the things we kind of saw was that there was money available from the insurance. The insurance came in lower than budgeted, so that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. So there we go. So basically, this is kind of our standard staffing model. Just recently, we came to have an extra firefighter on a shift. I'll kind of demonstrate what that looks like on two of the 4 working groups. So right now, we have 4 working groups. 2 have 9 firefighters, 2 have 8 firefighters. So one of the things that became clear once we were never in a great position in terms of staffing. We were always kind of bare bones. And then one of the issues that we've really kind of compounded that was the closure of Norwood Hospital and then subsequently Brockton Hospital. So the utilization of our ambulances kind of went way up. The area, the volume in the area has increased, and the utilization throughout the region has increased. So we're seeing a less availability of ambulances. So one of the things we had to do as an organization was work hard to get a 3rd ambulance on the road, just because there's no availability of ambulances. So we didn't have, there was no fat to begin with, and now we're really, really lean with the lack of hospital capacity. And the staff does an outstanding job of trying to cover all the calls. So what I'm going to demonstrate for you is like in a perfect scenario where everybody's in the fire station. So we get a medical call. So the first 2 firefighter paramedics transport to the hospital, and that could be Rhode Island Hospital, that could be Mass General, that could be Good Samaritan. But again, in 2019, when they transported to Norwood, we could expect them to be tied up at the hospital for about 20 minutes. Today, it might be 20 minutes before they even talk to a nurse to begin to give report to get the patient off the stretcher. So again, those times, I can't stress enough how much that time has really extended out, especially going into Boston and, the different hospitals that we go to. We go to Newton Wellesley quite a bit, Faulkner Hospital, so it's really challenging. So then we have a second medical call. So that takes the second ambulance, and they transport. Now again, this happened, so the first ambulance since January 1st has done about 480 calls. The second ambulance has done 165. And then what we do is, so typically we would staff an engine and a ladder, each with two firefighters, or an officer and a firefighter. So now what we do is we take the ladder truck, we take that out of service, we staff an ambulance, now they're gone. So that leaves 2 people. 30% of the time we transport because of the patient's acuity. We end up taking 3 firefighter paramedics in the ambulance because they're having a heart attack, it's a trauma patient, so there's different conditions that require more hands. So sometimes that just leaves 1 person back at the station. Again, I'm not trying to scare anybody, but that's not optimal. I mean, so that leaves 1 person to respond. At this point, we're calling Sharon or Mansfield to come in for the next call, and we're responding in a pickup truck. So again, what the 9th guy does is kind of eliminates that condition, and at least we can staff a fire engine, because we still have a fire suppression responsibility too. Even if it's not a fire, at 3 o'clock in the morning, when we evacuate a hotel at Patriot Place, there's 200 people standing in the cold waiting for us to come investigate and reset the alarm. So it's not, oh my God, we have a building fire. It's routine business, and we do those calls, a couple 100 calls a month. So it's not something that that we take lightly. Even with the staffing and the way we've kind of shuffled our staffing to staff that third ambulance, we've still called mutual aid 23 times this year to come in and help us, just because of the volume of calls. So we're not, even though we do staff that, and I think it's about 50 times this year that third ambulance has had to go out. So, what are we, 60 days into this? So, once every day and a half. So I think even with that, we're still calling in mutual aid. So it's not like we're covering all of our calls. So this is our 4 working groups. Again, 8 firefighters. We ended up getting an extra firefighter. The last firefighter that we hired just graduated the fire academy, so now we have 2 shifts of 9, 2 shifts of 8. So operationally, that's challenging too, because we kind of have 2 separate fire departments now. We have a lopsided staffing. So ultimately, we like to get to the 9 on all shifts, but getting just 1 puts us closer. Now, 75% of the time, we can have extra manpower to cover some of those additional calls. So, and this doesn't take into consideration when people take time off for sick leave. Now that manpower kind of dribbles back. So we have when on an 8-person shift, there's no excess. So if the person doesn't show up for work because of illness or we send them to training, then we have 7 people. And all of that previous staffing model kind of goes out the window. And then it's kind of management by chaos at that point. So yes, it doesn't seem like a lot, but that 1 firefighter makes a difference. That gives us another coverage 25% of the time, because 4 working groups, they work 24/7. That's what you have covering your community. So that's my pitch. So if you have any questions.
Any questions from the board? Yeah.
Just curious, Chief, what times do we have the lightest coverage? In other words, when do we have the 8-person team? Is it like midnight to?
No, so these groups work 24/7. So they come in at 8 o'clock in the morning, they leave at 8 o'clock the next morning. So it's 7 days a week.
Okay.
And there's really, and when we've studied the numbers, there's no peak time. It depends, obviously Friday night at Patriot Place is busier than a Tuesday morning, but, then, we might be, the highways are busy in the afternoon, they're busy in the morning, so there's really no peak time where we really see a huge spike in volume. It's kind of right across the board, so.
Thank you.
I just thought, the other thing I wanted to cover is getting somebody to the house, to the destination as quickly as possible, because very often it's a medical emergency. So you're in that golden hour, so any delay getting to that house is the other factor here. It's not just, getting them to the hospital. And I don't think if you could spend just a few minutes on what paramedics allow you to do in the field, that they could never do 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we look at like response time, especially when we're looking at things like, cardiac issue, anything you have one of, we really worry about. Brain, heart, liver, things like that. So we really look at things that you have one, but primarily, cardiac issues and neurological issues, strokes and things like that. Those are timely. There's things that need to happen rapidly. There's things that paramedics can do, like give you IVs and give you medication to reduce the demand on the heart. So it's almost like I time this, huh? If the guy's running in and out. They can give you medications to reduce the demand on your heart and prolong that, that condition, so you can get the proper treatment, like with a stroke. If we get you to the hospital within 3 hours, they can give you medication to unblock the blockage in your brain, but after 3 hours, that treatment modality kind of goes away. So there's things that we certainly do. I told the story of the motor vehicle accident we had, obviously an extreme case, but on Route 95 North at Mechanic Street, the first ambulance in was from Norwood. We were tied up. We had a fire on North High Street. Mansfield was busy. They had people helping us plus their own calls. Sharon was busy. Walpole was busy. North Attleboro was busy. So we ended up calling Norwood to come down to 95. So they have to go to 140, turn around. Ended up being a fatality at the end of it. And was the 25-minute response time responsible? I mean, didn't help, that's for sure. So when we look at cases like that, and that's an extreme case, obviously, but day to day, you don't want to get an ambulance as soon as possible, I think. And
I know we've talked a lot to our state constituents and everything, but, you know, it feels anecdotally like we have a lot more response with the 295 exchange than maybe some other places, you know, in the area. So, you know, the offline of hospitals coupled with our additional response, you know, on 95, plus let's not forget the fact that we have, you know, a stadium in town. Is there any discussion or opportunity about like getting any additional grant state or funding, or is that kind of not possible because it doesn't fit the parameters of one of those?
The state, the only state funding that is available, it goes to like urban areas, Fall River, New Bedford, Lawrence. Towns like Foxborough typically don't get funding for staffing. We do compete federally for staffing grants, and we've tried. We were successful in 2017 in getting that grant, and we've tried since to get another, it's called SAFER. We've tried to get that grant, and we've been unsuccessful. I think once you get it, you kind of take a few years off. And we're going to continue to explore those alternative funding sources, but you know, generally, there's not a lot of grant funding available. I do make the pitch to our legislators, you know, we're responsible for 495 and 95, but the highway department isn't and the police department isn't. You know, that's a burden that the taxpayers of Foxborough bear that the taxpayers of Norfolk don't.
Right, and then couple the offline, you know, hospitals with it. I get that there's federal, you know, grants and things for staffing, but it seems like we have like a real niche, you know, need down here that's a little bit different. You know, not only just us, but maybe some of our counterparts in the area too, because of all the hospitals offline. Like it's really affecting everyone.
Yeah, and then our call volume is increased, you know, exponentially over the last like 5 years, especially coming out of COVID. It really, I don't understand what's driving it, but it seems to really have, you know, just spiked compared to the last, you know, to 2018, 2019 pre-COVID. We kind of plateaued, and then it's really spiked.
So I guess my other question would be too, like, it's great and there's definitely a need, but can we afford it? How do we afford it? What do we possibly, you know, give up to get it? I think that's just the other side of the coin, of course.
Do we want to talk about that now or wait for the budget part?
Probably should wait for the budget,
Yeah.
but unless you
Okay,
want
so
to
we'll
dig
get into that
it
later. I
now.
wasn't sure if we're getting into that now.
So this is, I think we weren't going to hear from you last meeting, but that, you explaining it this way, for me, is great, because I think the question I had was, because when Dennis kept talking about the ambulance runs, I was like, well, that extra person doesn't get you another ambulance run, because that would require another ambulance. So that's why I'm glad that you showed it this way. You know, and I mentioned to you, I mean, for a very long, my husband's had lots of health issues. We've never had to call you guys. We've never had to actually call 911, and then we had to call twice, once in November, once in December. You know, I just want to kind of let people know, we were a family who, you know, it was going to be up to the paramedics. I know it wasn't up to us, but, you know, he's a transplant patient, very complicated patient. So, of course, his doctors at Tufts tell us, if you have to call 911, you should tell them, if he can, he needs to come to Tufts. He's, you know, Good Samaritan. I mean, he's very complicated. Not that they're, you know, they can handle certain things, but the best place for him is Tufts, because he's got 15 doctors at Tufts, okay? So, and I know that's always going to be up to your guys, but we twice, the guys did take him to Tufts. So in my head, I was thinking what that's doing to your department, right? And, you know, what the time is, you know. So we firsthand have had to, like, you know, have you guys do that. And if the guys, you know, had to go to Good Samaritan, so be it, you know. But they were good enough to evaluate him and then make that decision. So the way you're explaining it here to me is much more, I'm going to be like what Leah just said. Can we afford it now? Not so much about the need, you know, so I'm glad we didn't have you, like, you know, by Zoom to start throwing stuff out, because I was just thinking of it more like you needing another ambulance. But this shows me it's needing somebody else in the firehouse.
Right.
It's not just because you don't have another ambulance. And I guess the other comment I would have, and I mean, this isn't my expertise, it's yours, Mike, but, you know, so I know you have the mutual aid, but have we thought about maybe just short time, the reach out to private companies. And I don't mean that to take away, not for the need of another fireman, but just to take care of the town. You know, like, you know what I mean? So is that what you guys would do? Like, if you called to Mansfield and they said, we don't have an ambulance for now, what do you do if nobody, if another town?
We just keep calling.
Just from town to town?
So what drives the private ambulance industry is things like nursing homes and hospitals.
Yeah.
There's not an abundance of that around here.
Yeah.
So there's not an abundance of private ambulances around here. So even if that, the staffing shortages and the pressure on the healthcare system is also trickled down to ambulance services.
Yeah.
So they don't have the resources that they used to. No one's going into that field. So they have some real staffing challenges. So part of our increase in volume is some of their inability to keep up with some of the, like years ago, that they would go to the Doolittle, they would go to Patriot Place and pick up some of that volume. They're not doing that. That's part of the reason why our volume's going up.
Oh, yeah. One time when Jimmy was at the Sinai there, all day long, there's like 5 Brewster ambulances
Yep.
just rotating in and out. And I mean, that they're more transporting from a hospital to a rehabilitation facility. But I was just curious, like, what do you do when you hit that point?
We would just, unfortunately, we just like we did, like the example I gave, we just, like, Norwood had an ambulance available. They were the first ones we found, and they sent it. That's part of the issue, is that it's such pressure in this region, you know. And when we looked at things like the World Cup, it's I mean, it kind of keeps me up at night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
That ends our fire department night of
Okay.
night of the meeting.
So thanks for hanging out, guys. Appreciate it. And once again, congratulations.
Thank you.
And there goes our audience.
Actually, a pretty big audience tonight, even otherwise.
All right, next, I don't think,
Not you, Mark.
no, I don't think you're up yet,
Stage
Mike.
school.
Nice try.
You wish.
Yeah.
You gotta get comfortable.
Do some
You
public
gotta-
way safe school. Elbow him out of the way next time, just.
He's 2 away from going.
Hi, introduce yourself, let us know what the race is all about. You hadn't done it for a number of years, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So my name is Betsy Baller. I've been at Sage for a year and a half. And this year I moved into the role of development. So the last 5K race was done in 2018. There were 120 participants. And then it was supposed to be annual. However, we all know COVID happened. And so last year we really started to focus again on more community-based events and connection. And so this was the year that was like, okay, can we finally get back to doing the 5K and having it be in the community, and also aligned with our strategic plan just as a school to get into the community. You know, one of my first questions was about Founders Day, right? So that's a huge, I work with Lisa Downs, and so she fills me in on all the different pieces of Foxborough, and I just live in Mansfield, so just trying to get back in the community and have some connections and fun, and
Awesome. You can't get a better resource than Lisa either.
and they won, so.
Hot off the press.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, we're just trying to make sure that it's a safe community event, which is why we picked the route that we did, going down Mechanic that way instead of this way. And also not so many turns, so people aren't having to just make a lot of different directions. So,
And everybody's checked off.
what's that?
Everybody's checked off.
As far as,
Police,
so my first stop was here and the police. And the police, Katie shared that the police gave it a thumbs up.
Good.
They're good with the route. It'll be going down to Cabot, and then connecting out onto Oak, down to a neighborhood on the right, turning around, just coming straight back down Oak to Mechanic and back. So it'll start and stop at Sage, and we're hoping to have some different like service components, like our service, kids that do service at Sage, have there be composting and different things that Sage exhibits in our community as a school. So,
any questions from the board?
Just a different race than normal. Police is okay with
police
it.
is on, yeah.
DPW is okay with it.
Yep, everyone's great, and then we'll probably have about one police detail just to help with
Okay.
the route.
And do you plan to communicate to that neighborhood too? Like, they don't have sidewalks and it's a smaller neighborhood. So just like, it's different. Like, most of our races in town are kind of around Schneider and everything. So just letting the neighbors know too.
Do you think it'd be best just to do flyers like in the mailboxes along the route of where it's gonna be?
Yeah, I mean, that as long as maybe we can even have Maura, communicate something that it's gonna be going
Oh,
out.
yeah.
Or,
That would be
just-
great.
It's a little bit different of the normal race route. So just letting people know that it's, going on.
Okay,
And I think flyers would be a good idea.
okay.
Yeah, because of that little niche in through there.
Yeah, like Eastman, like it looks
Yeah.
like it's going all through
Yep.
there, and like they don't have sidewalks.
Yep.
It's not a busy neighborhood, but still,
Yeah, someone might not look on the website and see it's coming through there or do a deep dive, what the road
Right,
is. So I
right.
think
Yeah, I can reach out
mailboxes
to
would be a
Maura,
great
or
idea.
through Katie, reach out to
And
Maura.
are the roads closed, or the roads are still open? Okay.
The roads are still
okay.
open. That's why we did not come this way, because then you'd be crossing a couple major
Okay.
intersections that would cause for closures to occur.
Okay, yeah, this one, when I looked at the route, it has no closes. So just some questions, because it's a different route than we
Yeah.
normally see, but it looks like it's all been thought out.
And I don't know what else has been done, I just,
Yeah.
All right, unless, no?
Okay, all right, motion to approve the use of public way application for the Sage School 5K road race on May 18th at 9 a.m. Sage School parking lot to Mechanic, right on Cabot, right on Eastman, right on Oak, right on Kerr, right on Richards, left on Webb, left on Oak, left on Mechanic, and back to end at the Sage School.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Great, good luck.
Congrats.
thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you. All right, next up on the agenda is a Schneider Electric update. Welcome.
Thank you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Paul Ahern. I've been with Schneider Invensys in Foxborough for 26 years. I do a number of environmental, real estate, and community activities or initiatives for the company. The last time I was here with the board, it was in 2020, and it was to announce that we were shutting down the Neponset Avenue facility and that we're bringing the operation over to the Cohasset facility, which is off of Mechanic Street, right across from the Y. That initiative took us about 2.5 years to plan and to execute, and we had our grand reopening of Cohasset back in May of 2022. And I know Leah has come through before, and Paige as well. And we invite the board to come and see what we have. So we've created this state-of-the-art manufacturing and research and development and executive office, customer support operation. We've been designated by Schneider as a hub facility. So from a global and North American perspective, we are one of the top facilities. And I think it speaks very well. It's an achievement for us here in Foxborough to have that designation by the company and to have been able to outfit the facility such that we could shut Neponset Avenue down. And so tonight, this is the Cohasset facility. As I said, it's called the Foxborough Hub. We have all sorts of, as I said, manufacturing, research, development, all sorts of different office spaces, amenities for employees, and we invite you to come by, at your convenience, to come and take a look at it. Something we're very proud of. But now that we're done with that, and once we shifted the manufacturing over to Cohasset, and that was about 100,000 square foot renovation of the factory, of Cohasset when all is said and done. It's now time to address Neponset Avenue. And so we will be, I think it's the worst kept secret in Foxborough, but we have decided to demolish the northern end of the factory. So if we could go to the second page?
He's working on it.
He's going back.
Oh, go back, okay. Thank you. So the Neponset Avenue facility is 30 years old in places, starting at the southern end. And it just reached the point where, particularly in the northern end, it was way past the point of reuse.
Can I just stop you
Yes.
just to, because I'm looking at the map, but, so is northern end up by
Could you go, I
Mechanic?
don't have the flipper, could you go to the second page, please? There's a map, Leah.
Okay.
Hold on a second.
It's on the Chestnut Street end, right?
So it's the Chestnut Street end is the
Is the
north
north,
end,
right,
and the
right.
Mechanic Street end is the south
Yeah,
end.
so if you were to stand at Pond Avenue
Okay,
and look across the street, and there's a picture of it coming up,
Okay.
That's the
Street, yeah,
division
we have it here in
point.
front
So
of
here
us,
we go,
yeah.
here's the aerial, okay? And to the top left, that's the Neponset complex, and you see the red line. To the left of the red line is what we call Neponset South, and the parking lot that we give the town a license to use that's the south end. So that closest to downtown. To the right, the Chestnut end, to the right of the red line is Neponset North.
Okay.
And it's our intention to demolish the northern end of the factory and leave the southern end in place. As again, the street view, if you stand at Pond Avenue and look across the street, Neponset North is really the lower buildings. They're big flat roof buildings, typically 50 to 80,000 square feet, even larger in size. But everything for the multi-story, what we call Building 4, you see center of the page, that and to the left will be maintained. You can see the bird's eye view in the bottom left-hand corner of the page. And the colorized buildings are the ones that will be demolished. And the demolition will generally occur in the opposite sequence that they were built, meaning that we'll start at the very northern end of the factory and work our way back towards the middle. We need to do that in order to create space. Each one of these buildings is its own building, even though they're connected. So each one will be its own, if you will, tearing down of that particular building. We hope to begin the demolition of the external, the structural demolition in the fall. If you go to the third slide, please. Since we left Neponset in April of 2022, we've undertaken a tremendous amount of work to empty out the factory. So it was a 130-year-old hoarders episode, truly. It's 670,000 square feet. It dates back from 65 to 130 years old in places. The oldest is the southern end. And so over the last year and a half, 2 years, we've been working to decommission the factory. It is a major industrial complex, very sophisticated utilities, gas, electric, water, et cetera. And we've been doing work, what we call make safe. So to make it safe, electric, all the utilities, and fire protection. Because it's our intention to demolish the northern end, the southern end will remain standing. But in order for us to do that, we need to separate south from north in terms of fire protection and utilities. Unfortunately, the south is a slave to the north, not the other way around. And so what we will be doing is, and we had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and I want to thank very much all the departments, Paige, everyone who was at that meeting. And we've had tremendous support from the fire department, the building department, the police department, as we've maintained the security of the property since we closed it. But now in this process, so we had this kickoff meeting a couple weeks ago where we started to talk about the permits that will be necessary in order for us to do the work. The work is being directed by me, but we have assembled the same team of experts that actually did the construction of Cohasset a couple of years ago. And so we've brought in a number of experts, like in fire protection, et cetera. And right now, we are doing what is called make safe. So we are actually going to be putting in, for example, a whole new electrical system temporarily, so we can depower the entire facility at once, and then run off of the temporary power. And then as we take the buildings out of service, as we take them down, we'll just move it back to the center line. In the end, we will have Neponset South standing with its own fire protection system, alarm system, and a utility system. So that's in the pre-demo work that we've been focused on so much. In the next several months, we'll start to put together what we call the project narrative, and we talked about it a lot at the meeting back in February, on all the different elements, the aspects of the project, and whether it's from traffic control or community relations, communications, how are we actually going to do this? And we'll continue to talk with the fire and police departments, the DPW, et cetera, all of the different boards who have some kind of jurisdiction over the permitting process. We'll also be talking with state and federal agencies for stormwater protection. Construction operations require certain EPA permits, et cetera, or notifications. And so we'll be undertaking all that so that as we get closer to the fall, we'll be in good shape. In the next month or so, we'll be starting to come in front of the various boards. So for example, the electrical inspector, to get, in the fire department, to get final sign-off on the fire protection and electrical changes that we need. So this is a very complicated process. We think it's going to take us probably at least a year now from today in order to effect the demolition of the factory. But we'll continue to, as I say, as we've developed this project narrative in working with Paige and all the different department heads, we'll make sure that we communicate to the board, to the community, to our neighbors along Neponset Avenue, what we're doing, when it's going to occur, et cetera. Of course, we'll meet every bylaw, code, environmental rule, the full gamut. And that's our commitment to the town and to each other. Our number one priority in this is to keep everybody and everything safe. I thought construction was complicated. Demolition is actually complicated in a very different way, and it's perhaps even more complicated because of the age of the structure. But we'll do it in a timely way, but safety always. So this project narrative will develop over time. And then if you could go to the next slide. The big question that everybody keeps asking, everywhere I go, what are you going to do with the land? So we are, on the left-hand side, that is Neponset South, the brick multi-story buildings with the towers. We have no plans at this time to do anything with the land, whether it's Neponset South or the 3 other major parcels that face Neponset Avenue. There's 54 acres in total. It is the company's intent to sell the land. It's the timing of that. We do not know. Our focus continues to be on running the business and then undertaking this demolition activity to then turn our attention to what are we going to do with the land. But we, with the exception of a very small piece of the land called the Flow Lab, which has a driveway to Neponset Avenue, it's our expectation that we will sell all the land at some time. Again, to be determined right now. So that's our plan. I'm sorry if I rushed through it. I know your time limited tonight. But we've been working with Paige, and I must say, it was funny, the fire department was here, and when I saw the chief and the deputy chief, I said, wow, you need 30 guys here to talk about it. But they've been unbelievably supportive, highly collaborative, helping us understand, and us and our experts helping them understand what we're doing, because we want to be sure that everybody is on board. And I don't speak for them, but I know they've been highly complimentary and supportive of this. The northern buildings must come down. There's just no doubt about it. There's no repurposing value to them at all. If we could have, we would have. But they just don't serve our purposes. For Schneider, they're typically too old, the ceilings are too low. It's not what anybody wants out of a big building like that anymore. But we'll let the future owners of the land decide the development of the land commensurate with its zoning designations. But that's a discussion for the future.
Great presentation, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Any
you.
questions? I think
Yeah, I think if we can go back to the last one, Mark, the third one, the one thing that I see, just my feedback on that is, it doesn't address the standard working hours for Saturday. Not only do you have the Neponset neighborhood, but you also have the Baker Street, the
Yeah.
Railroad Ave, that whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
Making sure that, even if it's like some kind of, meeting that you host with the neighborhood, just to, again, you don't have to get everyone's buy-in if you're allowed to do this, but just to educate people and
Yeah,
understand.
and that's our intent, Leah. That's our commitment, and we don't know the form
Yep.
of it, whether it's a leaflet, knock on
Yep.
doors, whatever but we'll do the best we can to make sure that all of your boards are fully informed of what we're going to do, that we get the permits that we need, and that the community understands that as well. We don't want to be a nuisance to anybody.
Yeah. And I think,
And we'll do it respectful of everybody, and in accordance with the bylaws, et cetera.
Okay. The age of the building, obviously, there's things that come along with that as far as health hazards. So, making sure, and I see that, there's the state hazardous building materials, but just how do we protect our, communities
Right.
and neighborhood from disturbing the area?
Sure.
Releasing asbestos, whatever it may be, into the water, the air, all that.
So all of those, for example, the asbestos is an excellent example. The buildings were all built during the sweet spot of the use of asbestos. So really, in the last year and a half, The major focus indoors has been to take all that asbestos wrapping off of like the steam pipes and all of the different surfaces. It's floor tiles, wall tiles, ceilings, everywhere. It's just what they use. But all that is through licensed contractors. Contractors licensed by the state. You need a permit from the DEP to do it. The Board of Health is advised. Neponset is not a place where we bring people through. It's really only qualified individuals who are trained to do that. But it is empty. Mark was in the building about a month ago. I saw a good vision into it. And if any of you had ever been in Neponset Avenue, you could not see from Neponset Avenue to the rail line. And now you've got a free view west to east and north to south. The buildings are empty. But asbestos is a big thing, so when we go to take the buildings down, it's in the roofs as well. And so the way that it will proceed is we'll have asbestos licensed contractors ahead of the game. Taking down any kind of thing like bricks, dust, will always be under some kind of mist to keep the dust at a minimum, the noise, all those nuisance things. So that's what our project narrative is about, and exactly how we're going to implement these things so that we can communicate to people, so everybody knows what we're doing, when we're doing it. We will work, part of the great thing about the meeting we had a couple weeks ago is that all the different departments were there with us and gave us feedback on different ideas that we had, whether it's traffic routes. Unfortunately, there is no way for us to transport debris by rail, so it'll all have to go out by truck. But we'll figure out those details about a traffic management plan, about how we are obligated to segregate like the brick from the steel from the other materials. We'll do all of that. We'll put the plans in place. We'll protect the stormwater. Rest assured, we've got an expert team in place to do it. That's the company's commitment to our neighbors and to ourselves and to all of you that we'll do it. We'll do it right. We'll do it safely. I'll end with this. When we did Project Atlantis, we did 51,000 work hours to rebuild Cocasset. We didn't have one injury, not one. And that's our goal here, is to do it safe, to do it respectfully for everybody, to create as little nuisance as possible. There will be noise as we go to take down the building. But again, this is not going to be this massive, wrecking ball coming and smashing the whole thing down. It'll be taken down bit by bit in very well segregated, defined areas, and we'll keep the nuisance to a minum.
How
We
long do you think
appreciate
it's
the
going to take,
support.
Paul? How long do they estimate?
Leah, I think if we begin in September, the structural demolition will take probably till January.
Okay.
But there'll be a lot of work you'll never see, because it's inside the building that will be done, Some teams will start inside a building a month ahead of any kind of structural. So you'll see nothing from the outside, okay, until we actually go, and we showed a picture at the meeting, and because of time, I didn't bring them all here. It's just gonna be claw the building down little by little by little, building by building. So it'll take about 4 to 5 months, we believe, to complete, weather dependent, those kinds of things. But we'll keep you updated to the degree that you want to be and need to be, certainly. We have no issue with that at all.
Any other questions? No, thank you.
Again, we appreciate your support, and your boards have been outstanding.
Thank you. Thank you for
Well,
coming
same
today.
to Schneider. Schneider.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you, we appreciate the support.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye, Paul.
All right,
Still not Mark.
still not Mark. You can sit down.
Mark got unlucky on the bingo. The lottery
Neponset
tonight.
River Watershed Association update.
Hi, thank you very much. My name's Ian Cook, and I am the Executive Director of the Neponset River Watershed Association. And I also have a colleague who I think is on Zoom, who was unable at the last moment to come in person. And hopefully I have a couple slides that somebody is magically organizing behind
I
the
think
scenes
Mr.
here.
Beck's trying to bring it up.
Excellent. So I'm just going to take, while he's getting that ready, I'm just going to take a minute to update you on some projects that we have been working on involving climate change adaptation and resilience for Foxborough and the other communities of the Neponset River watershed. So here is a map of the Neponset River watershed, and Foxborough sits right at the headwaters of it. really only a relatively small part of town, sort of the north corner of town near the stadium, drains into the Neponset watershed, and from there, from the reservoir, and from there the river heads upstream, sort of northeast, until it gets to Boston and Quincy. And for the last several years, we have been working with 12 cities and towns, from Foxborough all the way to Boston and Quincy, on trying to address various aspects of community resilience and climate adaptation. And I'm going to give you a quick update on what has happened already, what we're working on right now and next year, and then at the end I have a request for you. And I'm not sure if my colleague is online, but if he's not, I'll do his part too. Oh,
We can hear.
I am here, yes.
ah, okay. That's my colleague Martin Pillsbury from the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, who is one of our key partners on this.
And we also have Chris and Lance on Zoom as well. They're in the ether somewhere as well.
Wonderful. Great partners, Chris and Lance. So if you want to go to you can actually go right ahead to the third slide there. So this is one of the first things that we did starting last year was we recognized, with climate change, our weather is obviously going to become much more extreme. So most obviously more heat, but also more rain, and particularly more intense rainstorms. And what we think of historically as the big storms, like quote unquote 100-year storms, are getting a lot bigger. So one of the first things we set out to do last year was to create a watershed-wide flood model to try to understand, by modeling future rainfall events, where we were likely to see more flooding. So people, I think, are familiar with the FEMA flood maps and so forth that are built into our regulations. The thing to understand about those is those flood maps are all historical looking. They never look forward. They don't sort of take into account the changes in our weather. And it is changing a lot. So historically, what we called, back in the 60s, what we thought the quote-unquote 100-year storm was about 6.5 inches of rain in 24 hours. Right now, that's up to about 8.25 inches of rain in 24 hours. And by 2070, the expectation is that'll be 11.5 inches of rain in 24 hours. And that makes a huge difference. What we used to think of as the 100-year storm is really becoming the, quote, 50-year storm. What we used to think of as 50 is sort of becoming 25. So these big events are happening a lot, and you were even talking about them earlier with your friends. Certainly the issue that happened in Norwood a few years ago was kind of an early warning of those kinds of sort of small but very intense rainstorms that are going to be challenging. So this just provides an overview of the flood study, and you can see on the left is the estimated percent increase in flooded area for different sub-watersheds in the watershed between now and 2070 for the 10-year storm. So this is a pretty frequent storm. And you can see Foxborough down in the lower left corner there is not in the best category, but you're relatively well off with only a 10 to 20% increase in flooded area. Over on the right, you can see even in Foxborough, which is in the best color, the volume of water we're talking about dealing with in the future is enormously larger, a 50 to 60% increase in the volume of water that has to be managed. The next slide, you may not be able to see this very well, but this is some of the output of the flood model, which exists right now for the 2-year storm. And I'm not entirely sure why we picked the 2-year storm for this graphic, but the 2-year storm is a very frequent storm. Historically, it was about 3.5 inches of water. In 2070, we think it'll be about 4.5 inches of water. And even in this small storm in Foxborough, it's good to be in the headwaters because you don't have everybody else's water coming into town. But you do still see, and it's hard to make out, but you do still see a substantial increase in the depth of flooding that you're going to experience, even in those frequent storms, and a modest increase in the area of flooding. And if you step through the 10-year, the 50-year, the 100-year storm, you see some of those impacts do get bigger, and you have to zoom in carefully to see that. But just to give you a sense of that tool is out there, it's on the website now. It's really kind of interesting to poke around and zoom in and out in different areas and see what it has to say. If you go to neponset.org/climate, you can find it. The other thing that we focused on in the last year is starting the process of trying to bring our municipalities together to share resources around climate adaptation. Pretty much all of our communities are facing the same very significant challenges around climate. And one thing that we have found over the years in terms of stormwater management and water conservation is that there's a lot of benefit of getting neighboring communities together to share expertise, to identify areas where things could be done more efficiently together on a regional basis so that we don't all have to reinvent the wheel. And the first phase of that was what we called, and you can actually go ahead to the next slide. The first phase of that was what we called our Regional Climate Resilience Framework, which was basically taking the existing climate planning documents of all the communities and sort of combining them to see where there's overlap. And the long and short of that was there's an enormous amount of overlap in terms of what communities had set as their initial priorities, and a lot of opportunity to gain efficiency and implement things effectively through collaboration. So you can go to the next slide, which brings me to my colleague, Martin, who is somewhere in the ether. Martin,
Thank you. Yes, and are you hearing me okay?
No, a little muffled.
I'll speak up. Is that any better?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you. So to help communities deal with a lot of these challenges, MAPC, which is your regional planning agency, I'm sure you know, and works a lot with Foxborough and neighboring communities on local planning issues. We put together a toolkit, which is online on our website, the Climate Resilient Land Use Strategies, where we did research on finding some of the best examples and best practices around the state and beyond for things like zoning and site plan and subdivision, floodplain management, and stormwater management, bylaws, regulations, all the kinds of tools that cities and towns have the ability, have the legal clout to be able to put in place using your home rule authority. And most communities have these kinds of bylaws in place already, but many of them have not been modernized to really think about these future impacts the way Egan talks about. So what's in this toolkit are examples of ways that communities can enhance and use the tools they have at their disposal now in a more enhanced way to really target future development. And a lot of this has to do with regulating new development in a way that will reduce its impact for runoff of stormwater, to accumulate more volume of more quickly after storm events, to set in place more incentives and requirements for managing water on sites and recharging more water and that sort of thing. Getting our built environment to function hydrologically a little bit more like, mimicking to some degree the way the natural was before we built on it, using both a combination of sort of engineered stormwater designs as well as ever increasingly what we often call green infrastructure approaches or low impact development. So that toolkit is something that's available for communities, and we actually gave a workshop in year one of this program last year, go over this toolkit in detail with members of all the towns in the Neponset Basin. We are planning a second workshop in this second year, a little bit later this spring, which will actually deal on a GIS mapping-based tool that we've developed to help identify good areas and good sites for green infrastructure installation that will help communities take some steps in that direction. I think that's all for that slide. I probably said more than I should because I know our time is short. I'll just mention quickly that besides the sort of the technical work and the mapping, a large part of this work is around getting the word out to the communities, both through the official channels, through groups like this, the select boards and boards of selectmen and planning commissions, et cetera, but also to the general public. And we do have a community advisory committee that has actually met twice. Last fall, it kicked off, and we had a second meeting just last month to bring in stakeholders and interested citizens and nonprofits in a parallel way to the way we're also reaching out to municipalities directly as well. I think we can go on from there. And just a quick reminder of just what is the big picture for all of this with climate change. This is kind of the title slide. You can move on to the next one. Although we have been talking a lot about flooding, and that's a bit this is the Watershed and the Watershed Association. We want to keep in mind a wide range of impacts that climate change is having and will have in our region. Heat is one of the main ones in many of our communities. I know that Foxborough is not a coastal community, we sort of want to remember the lower end of the Neponset watershed is, and that even for those who may not live right near the ocean, a lot of folks may actually commute and work in areas in Boston and closer to. So in different ways, sea level rise can affect our regional economy. So we keep that larger context in mind. Precipitation, not just from flooding, but other ways in which that can disrupt our infrastructure. And, we're talking a little bit earlier tonight about ambulance service. If we have roads that people are not passable, it could really help, it could really hinder the response of our first responders, et cetera. And high winds, we're seeing seems to be increasing number of these sort of high wind events, other than the major storms, not just hurricanes, but microbursts and very, very intense thunderstorms seem to be on the rise, causing various kinds of damage. So there's lots of challenges beyond just the flooding to keep in mind. And over the longer term, I think we want to be able to deal with a wider suite of issues like this as well. Would you go into the next slide, please? And so the last thing I want to just sort of keep in mind is that not all the populations and all the neighborhoods in our region are affected equally by these climate change impacts. Some communities have more resources available to them, or just by the nature of the way they're developed, are more resilient to things like heat. And some communities' populations are more vulnerable to them by virtue of the urban heat island effect in more developed areas, as well as populations that have fewer resources to be able to be prepared for these impacts. So climate equity and climate justice is also part of what we want to be thinking about as we do this kind of planning. And we could move on, please. And finally, it's not just the impacts on people, but on our greater environmental resources around us and the ecological impacts on wildlife and on aquatic habitat. That actually is supposed to be a flowing river on the left, and so it doesn't take much to understand that the fisheries in that area have dire effects when we see these kind of extreme conditions and drought. We're also looking at the potential with the extreme heat and the change of some of our species, invasive species, spreading more potential for things like West Nile and EEE and things of that sort, and other kinds of diseases and pests. So these changes in climate are having a whole range of different kinds of impacts. It's not all just the physical impact that you see right away immediately, flooding, but it's a wide range. It's kind of like a whole fabric that's being changed thread by thread. And I think that's the end of that segment. Maybe move on, yes. Ian, I'll pass it back to you.
All right, and then if you want to move ahead to the, one more. So a quick update on what's coming next. So right now, now that we have the basic flood model put together, we are going through and doing a whole series of updates and refinements to try to get it more accurate. So that's happening right now. Coming very soon next year, we'll be working with municipalities to go through the flood model and identify areas that are critical infrastructure that is most going to be impacted by flooding in the future, and also to prioritize which of those issues really need to be brought forward sooner rather than later to be addressed. We will be working at a number of sites that kind of rise to the top of that priority list to try to start developing conceptual designs for what you could do to protect that critical infrastructure. Essentially, can you find areas in the landscape where you could store floodwater where it's not going to bother anybody? Can you reconfigure drainage systems to protect those critical elements? At the same time that technical and engineering work is going on, we're also going to be taking the next step in trying to get municipalities working with one another on identifying projects that they might undertake, either individually or together, funding sources that we might pursue to get those projects moving. And we in the previous phase, we created the regional framework, and now we are in the process of trying to create a municipal climate collaborative that would help to supervise and steer that process going forward. At the same time, there's also a community advisory committee being pulled together with a special emphasis on trying to engage residents from all our communities that may be particularly vulnerable to climate impacts, sort of our elders, people with health conditions, less affluent people, the very young. who tend to be at greater risk from these kinds of impacts. And last but not least is ongoing effort around general community education. I think a lot of people don't, people know in general that climate change is happening, but I think folks have a hard time anticipating how it may impact them and how they may want to think about doing things in their own lives going forward. So all that's happening this year and next year. And we can go to the next slide. And we have a much too detailed slide about our schedule. One of the things that is not covered in our current flood model is our current flood model is really a model of river flooding. So it's kind of water, it rains, water gets into the river wetlands fill up and rise up. It doesn't really cover the exact type of flooding that happened in Norwood, in the Norwood Hospital, where there was a very intense rainfall in a very small area. It wasn't really that much water from a river point of view. It was kind of a non-event, but it was incredibly destructive because it fell in a very small area very, very quickly, totally overwhelmed the drainage system. And essentially, places that aren't even near the river are going to be increasingly vulnerable to that sort of flooding. And wouldn't it have been nice to know that if that was going to happen in downtown Norwood, so much of that water would end up in the basement of the hospital? We might have tried to do something to prevent that had we understood it. It's a question that is actually very challenging to develop a computer model of, but it's something we're going to be starting to figure out how we would advance developing that for our communities this year. And then so that's the end of our talk. The last thing I want to leave you with is my requests. So we have two requests. One is we are hoping that the town will nominate 2 people to help serve on this regional municipal climate resilience steering committee. Different communities have handled this differently. In some cases, communities have assigned one staff person that they feel like is particularly relevant to this, but also tried to engage a resident or a citizen that they feel sort of has a sense of the town. This group, obviously, these folks are not going to bind any of the member towns to any particular course of action, but we're hoping you can help us identify people who you have confidence in and who you feel have a sense of what makes sense for Foxborough. So looking for your input on who 2 such people would be. And then the second thing is to help identify any key community organizations that you think perhaps should be involved in some of this outreach and perhaps the community advisory committee. These could be these could be neighborhood associations. I'm always amazed. I think I know the towns in the Neponset Watershed, and then I discover there's 100 other little groups of people that I never knew about. So we would be very interested to hear if you have suggestions of folks we should be trying to involve. So that's I think that's what we have to say. Anything to add to that, Martin?
I couldn't have said it better. Thank you.
All right.
Any questions from the board?
I just have one because I live at that side of town. What are the concerns about the reservoir? There've been 10, 11-inch storms already pretty close to us. How would that impact the reservoir? And is there any concern of overflooding the banks in the reservoir?
So certainly a storm like that is, it's going to raise the water of the reservoir. But because the reservoir has such a small surrounding watershed, the impacts are surprisingly modest. If you go to that flood model and really zoom in, you'll see there's not a lot of increased flooding around the perimeter of the reservoir. There is some downstream along the river as it comes out and heads under North Street and heads down through the stadium. But again, because you have that small watershed, you've got it's essentially what's getting into the reservoir is mostly the rain that falls in the reservoir and a little bit around the edge. Where, for example, if you compare that to, I'm not sure, Willett Pond down in Walpole, that's got a 5 square mile drainage area. So much bigger area that's funneling that rain in. So I don't feel enormously worried about the reservoir in terms of flooding. I do think there are some other kinds of impacts. A big one at the Neponset Reservoir over the years has been eutrophication and phosphorus pollution and algae blooms. We are seeing with these intense rainstorms a lot of phosphorus and pollution gets flushed off the watershed and into ponds, and has been driving increased algae blooms. This is something they're really wrestling with over at Lake Massapog, which has been having some real challenges, and certainly this has been an issue in the reservoir over the years. Another, I don't know that this is an immediate concern at the reservoir, but you know, another thing that is generally a concern is wherever we have man-made dams, they are, you know, with these more intense rainstorms that are sometimes bigger than what they are designed for, those dams aren't always in good enough condition to withstand those storms. And if the dam collapses in the middle of the storm, you've got not only the natural flooding, but you've got, you know, all that water being released from the pond, which can really create some difficult situations. The Crack Rock Pond Dam, I know the town has been looking at and has been getting some traction with the state on possibly looking at a solution there, which would be good both for water quality and for flood control as well.
Good, thank you. Any other questions? No. Oh, great. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Now, Mark.
If anyone thinks they're a good multitasker, just watch Paul back for about 5 minutes. It's unbelievable. He does a great job.
So we're always trying to have our department heads come make presentation to us. We're lucky enough to have Mark, Human Services, Veterans and Recreation coming in front of us today.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here. So for those who remember, 2 years ago, we were sort of reorganized into one Human Services department. You can see there's 3 separate divisions. There's a Council on Aging, there's Recreation, and there's Veterans. We have this is sort of a new part. We've just added in a Recreation Coordinator. We hired Caroline Vigorito 2 weeks ago. She's fantastic. She's here part-time, and she's just another addition to the Recreation Division, which Renee will touch on later. But she's already working on programs, some really great stuff already coming out, so we're really happy to have her. But first, I just want to talk about our goal is to deliver great programs and services to the residents of the town, but we also like to have fun. So just a few things over the last few months: Halloween parade, Army-Navy game, Light Up Town, Memorial Day. We're in the community. We're offering great community events in addition to our normal everyday programs and services. But first, I'm going to focus on Council on Aging and Human Services. So 20 years ago, the Council on Aging and Human Services departments were combined into one, and traditionally located down at the Senior Center. So we offer lots of senior programs. 5 years ago, I was in front of this board and I said that my main goal was to get ready. Next year is the first year that Gen Xers will be considered seniors. We're there. Yeah, I know. And actually, you gave me that exact same face 5 years ago, and I won't forget it, Leah. So it's one of those things that we had to get ready for Gen Xers, the MTV generation, to want to come to a senior center. We still have the great opportunities like a bingo and more sedentary programs, but we've really updated every single thing we offer. So just some pictures here from Founders Day. We take trips to the State House. The fire department does a barbecue every year. We do trips. We do community events like Crustaceans on the Common, which we did in coordination with the rec department last September. And then even presentations with historical presentations, or even Harvey Leonard, which is down in the right-hand corner. We had 140 people packed into the senior center. I was determined to turn no one away. I actually rented chairs to make sure that people could come and listen to Harvey Leonard come and present on climate change, and everyone loved it.
Who doesn't love Harvey?
Who doesn't love Harvey Leonard? We also have Human Services, which is sort of that separate division. We have 2 fantastic social workers. Foxborough is very blessed to have 2 social workers on staff, in addition to the community response social worker up at Public Safety. Pam and Kate down at the Senior Center do a tremendous job. They meet with clients. They get clients from where they are to where they need to be, whether it's working on fuel assistance, housing applications, even such things as memory cafe or low vision support groups. So that's just a great resource that Foxborough has. I also keep track of statistics. I'm crazy about statistics. Our average daily attendance is really skyrocketing in the last few years after COVID, and we're averaging over 100 people every single day, which is more than double we were 5 or 6 years ago before COVID. We also have great things like the Senior Olympics. This is our 4th year of Senior Olympics, where we're up at the stadium for 2 days doing a 2-mile walk and a softball throw. We're also all around town for the first 2 weeks of May doing activities. We walk by Town Hall. There's darts, there's pickleball, and even things sedentary programs like Scrabble tournament. Transportation. So we offer 3 vehicles going throughout the town. You can see we have our Van Go, which was in an accident in December, but I'm happy to report that in about a month from now, we'll have a brand-new van, courtesy of the insurance money coming in, some money from the Friends of the Foxborough Seniors, thank you, Paul, as well as money from one of our formula grants. So we'll have a new 2024 Chevy 14-passenger van. In addition to that, we have a 2024 Chevy Trax, which is a kind of smaller car-like vehicle for our social workers and all of human services staff to use that on their home visits or even going to conferences. And we also have a 2022 Chevy Traverse, which is the SUV. Next up, I'm a big proponent in alternative revenue sources. So we have our formula grant, $65,000 in that, $61,000 in transportation grant, $26,000 in mental health, and $20,000 from the Friends of the Foxborough Seniors. These funds pay for things like our new pickleball courts, the vehicles, Interface, which is a mental health referral program, and also supplements our staff, which this year is $30,000 more than last year. And I know we're under time crunch, so I'm going to pass it over to Renee.
I just slide it.
Yeah, just slide.
All right, well, thank you for having us here. I get super excited to talk about all my programs. I know I'm on a time limit here. These are our 3 facilities that we have. We have the Payson Recreation Complex, the Booth Recreation Complex in Mill Street. Payson is mostly the ball fields. Our biggest addition is the pickleball courts. They, every day, all winter long, I'm like, oh, maybe today I should take down the nets. It looks like it might snow. We never took them down. Those courts were used people were out there with shovels, leaf blowers. They use them like almost every day. It's crazy.
After I picked my son up after our last selectmen's meeting, even there was someone on the tennis courts at 9:00 at night.
It's crazy.
In like
well,
March.
so I have had a lot of requests for when are we getting the lights on the pickleball courts. Yeah, I get a lot of requests for all sorts of things going on down there.
I played a few weeks ago at Payson. It was a blast.
Yeah.
First time I played, and it's fun.
It's a lot of fun, and we offer lessons on Wednesdays. We have 5 different sessions. We have a senior-only session at 9 in the morning, and then beginners at 10, and like an intermediate or more of an advanced at 11, and then again at 5, and then again at 6. Oh, wow. So we take over the Wednesdays, and then there's senior-only open courts on Fridays, Friday mornings, which is great. Down at Booth, we have, again, more ball fields. That's obviously where my office is. The tennis courts, the basketball courts and such, skate park, and the new pavilion that's going in. Rumor has it that the construction will be started this week with this nice weather that we're having.
Is that the pit of the
Yes,
sand pit?
so I wasn't sure if I wanted another frog pond or what, but we're going to move forward with the pavilion, I guess. And then down at Mill Street, obviously, we have the chapel, the rec hall, and the town pool. This year, the pool. We have quite a few updates down there. We are hoping to add in swimming lessons possibly, and with the pool, with the new heater, it'll be nice and warm, so we can possibly open earlier. We're working on hiring staff now. A lot of interest in lifeguards this year, which has been great. There will be a new patio area by the snack shack. We did the snack shack last year. We're hoping to have better snacks this year, but there'll be a patio with actual patio furniture outside of the pool area, which will be a nice addition. And then the farmer's market. I've been working on trying to get some new vendors, but I'm super excited that some of our old vendors are coming back. Obviously, Allie's Cookies was a huge hit, so we are psyched that she's coming back. I was a little nervous when they opened the storefront that we weren't going to have them at the market, but Matt came in, and I've got all their paperwork, so they're coming. Again, we have the Fudge Lady, the Fairmont Fruit Farms, they're the same as last year, and then there'll be some other new vendors as well for that. Our summer programs, the booth is our K through 5 program, which is still a huge hit. Tuesdays and Thursdays we're down at the pool. Wednesdays we do our field trips, before care and after care. We're going to extend it to 9 weeks this year. We're going to do just a half week, 4th of July week. Middle school adventure was a huge hit last year. We decided to move it to 5 days. Last year we only did 3 days. There was a lot of request for us doing it Monday through Friday. So I heard, I listened, and we're doing it. We'll still do the 2 huge field trips on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then they'll be at the pool Wednesdays and Fridays. Monday, the pool isn't open, but there's still the field, cornhole, can jam, and all those fun games. On to the veterans. There's so much more to say, too. Sorry. Dodgeball, and touch a truck, and, sorry, go ahead.
So, good evening, everybody. I have the pleasure of being the acting VSO for the town of Foxborough at this time. It's been amazing, the amount of support that I've received from not only my coworkers, community, the VSAC committee, the Veterans Club that I run the first and third Monday of the month. So we have a Veterans Coffee Hour, and they've been letting me lead that as well. One of the main things that I work on besides VA disability claims, which is more the role of the actual VSO, I handle the Chapter 115 benefits, which assists the veterans and their families that are living below the poverty line within the community of Foxborough only, with help with rent, everyday living expenses, medical expenses. And one way I think that we can increase those benefits going out is the amount of community outreach that we do. So you can plan on seeing me at every public event that's coming up. I'd love to have a table. You'll find that with the veteran community that they're not ones or a population to reach out for resources. Very proud community. And that's why we should be doing more outreach and getting out there and having what's available. They're not going to come to us, so we can bring it to them. Let's see. So some of the town events that we do, obviously we had Veterans Day, we have the POW MIA Vigil, and also Memorial Day, which is coming up. Well into the thick of the planning for that. Actually did the common application today and the road closures and DPW forms today. So it's well underway. We have very few tasks left to go, and that's about it.
So I think it's important to know we don't work in a vacuum. We're very good at asking for help. We have a lot of partners in the community, including one that we just got 2 days ago. We have the Warrior Within Yoga Project, which is going to start April 30th. It's free for veterans and first responders. So Chief Keller, if you're still here, we can get you signed up. And it's also no cost to the town, too. So just another community partner that we're bringing in. But we have, between our three boards, we have dozens of program coordinators. It really, once again, we just really appreciate all the help that we get from organizations in town. And from that, do you guys have any questions for us?
Thank you for everything you guys do for the community. It's a lot. It really is a lot.
Renee, you having trouble with lifeguards, recruiting lifeguards?
No, we have like an overabundance of people are applying for lifeguard, which is just great. In the past, I was begging people. But yeah, so I think where I know we'll be fully staffed, which would be great.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, last year, a couple of times we had to close the pool. One lifeguard got sick, the next one was, grandma passed away, and I was like, So it looks like we're going to be good this year.
No, that's good. I heard that DCR-run facilities are paying lifeguards $27 an hour.
Well, that's the other crazy thing. Yeah, a lot of people want to apply, and they also want a lot of money. But yeah, so I think we're in good shape.
No, I think you guys are doing a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
It's great.
Thank you.
Great. It looks like you have fun doing it, too.
We really do.
Yeah. I've never been up there and seen a frown anywhere up there, no matter what room you're in.
And is it working well having Veterans Office down? I know there was a little worry about that, but do you feel like that's working out well?
I think it was the best move that we possibly could have made.
Oh,
We
great.
are part of Human Services, and we work with the social workers of Human Services. This actually makes it easier for the populations that we deal with, as a lot of the veterans are, aging and also members of the Council on Aging. So instead of saying, well, now you need to go over to this building and talk to this person, here's their card. No, it's, let me bring you right over and see if we can book you an appointment now and what we need to do in order to make things easier for you. It takes a lot of stress away from especially the veteran community, but also when the social workers need information from the Veterans Department, we're readily available. Giving out DD-214s, which is the retirement papers for the veteran community. Everything is it's awesome. Okay. It's so much better.
And senior programming for men's senior programming has gone through the roof because, veterans are coming down, they're speaking to Lauren, they're sitting there, then they'll go grab a cup of coffee, and then we sort of trick them into joining a fitness class or joining the men's breakfast, and it really has gone through the roof. And our coffee room has been full. I kind of joked with Paul earlier of people just sort of sitting around and really just taking up stake and just having their table, and it's exactly what we hoped for.
Okay, good. I know there was some, people were worried about that, so I'm glad it's actually played out well, so.
Working very well.
Great.
And if I could just say how great this team is, I mean, you all know how I feel about Mark being, he's been a tremendous help, but Renee and Lauren stepped up. Renee always does amazing, amazing work. I mean, light up town and the farmer's market, and I mean, you brought us Allie's cookies, let's be real. You really are the one.
She was my third cookie vendor, and I was like, please stay. And then she opened the storefront, and I'm like, all right, we got this, we got Allie.
But no, it's such a great community over there, and I love, sometimes they invite me over, and I get to go over for Allie's Cookies night one night and serve milk and cookies, and I mean, if you thought people smile normally, bring them milk and cookies. So it's just I always say, I'm like, invite me back over, because I love hanging out there, and it's really a great vibe down there, and it's because of your leadership, all three of you, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well worth the wait.
Thanks. It definitely was.
Always enjoy your department updates.
Yes. All right, next up, budget recommendations.
Everybody's favorite topic.
Yeah, here we go. So really, we're at the stage where, we were going to vote on the budget. We put a little bit of a hold on it to listen to Chief make his presentation. I requested potentially two different versions. I think the first thing we should talk about is, everybody's view on getting that extra firefighter. Up for conversation? Yeah.
I think he's made the case. And my thing is, with the pre-hospital care system, it's really a safety issue in the community, first and foremost. It's a huge safety issue. I think we've been fortunate, that there hasn't been a late response because the ambulances were tied up somewhere else, leading to a fatality. We've been fortunate, frankly. So I think he's made the case really well.
Anyone else?
I would just add that I agree with Dennis, and I'm comfortable with based on what we've seen. And, I always ask for the data, and Chief Kelleher brought that. And I'm comfortable bringing that to
You have to go a little forward.
Close to the mic.
Closer to the mic.
Oh, sorry.
They can't hear you.
Sorry. I'm comfortable bringing that to town meeting, essentially, and having the town vote on the additional firefighter.
Can we afford it? What does that look like? So we all want it, what does that mean? Is it doable?
Put me on the spotlight.
Yeah.
As you'll recall, the town manager recommended budget didn't include any new positions. When you talk about the health insurance and the property and liability insurance coming in lower, really what we did in the budget is we were using, at the time we were using $800,000 from free cash to cover not only the debt service that we have that's non-excluded, but also this additional amount for those two insurances. Now, when those amounts finally came in lower, what we did is we reduced the free cash because we didn't need to use, that extra to fund those budgets. Now, when you talk about free cash, if you look up free cash, you'll see everywhere that it's not recommended to use it for recurring expenditures. It's recommended for one-time uses, such as your capital budget, building up your reserves. We unfortunately are in a situation with our debt service. It's about $1.4 million, and that's about what we're using from free cash and overlay surplus. So speaking from a financial perspective, we didn't have true savings when our insurances came in lower. So, obviously, we recognize the need, but as far as a funding source, I don't recommend using free cash for a position.
You recommend not
I
using?
do not recommend, yes.
So, Chief, can we have you come on up and talk about,
And I'm curious to hear from Seth too. Like, I know you've been kind of big on the free cash, so, deferring to I feel like you're more the expert on this, and I really want your opinion on this and how you feel whenever that's appropriate. Sure.
but from a funding point of view, if you were to add that extra firefighter onto your budget, have you thought about where that's coming from?
Ongoing.
Yeah, I think if we use the funding mechanism identified this year, I think the ambulance receipts will support that in the future. The state has structurally changed some of the reimbursement, so we're actually getting crossover payments from Medicaid to Medicare, so that the state's going to match the Medicare rate for Medicaid. So that should give us an increase of about $100,000 a year. It's kind of a conservative estimate for the future. So that just started like last month. So I think in the future that will support the position.
So what you're saying is year one, we would support it as a one-time, but then we would not be using free cash to support that position in the subsequent years.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw you on the spot. Maybe you can't answer this right now, because I'm the same way. Listen, I know it's always good practice. We're supposed to stay away from that free cash for recurring. So we've watched the library maybe make a couple of adjustments in your budget. So I'm not saying that you can answer me right now, because I'm sure you would have to go back and look at your budget. But a general question would be, do you find, is there anything in your budget that you thought maybe you could go, find that 70,000 in your budget, and then next year we're in better, because then we know from the beginning, it goes to Paige. If you show Paige the funding, Paige may feel more inclined to go ahead and put in her recommendation. I don't know if you can answer that question. I'm just trying to think of I watched the library did that. Remember the library was kind of like, we want the position, so maybe we can find something. I don't even know if you can answer that right now.
No, I could. Unfortunately, there's just 92.5% of my budget is salary. And then we have, basically positions and overtime.
Yeah.
A lot of the overtime's contractual. And then the rest is, I think 300,000 in expenses.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot there. I couldn't make that up in the operating budget, unfortunately. It just doesn't, the capacity doesn't exist.
But looking forward after this year, and when would you potentially be able to hire that person? Might not be for another couple of months anyway.
So if I hire, if it was approved at town meeting July 1st through the funding, so I'd have to advertise, find somebody. If we were able to find somebody that could come over from another department, we would, obviously that would be advantageous. But if not, we'd have to hire them, get them in. They have to do a variety of physicals. So it's probably, reality, you're looking at after Labor Day probably before they start. And then if they have to go to the fire academy, that's another 3 months prior to them being ready to go on shift. If we can get somebody to come over from another department, probably a little after Labor Day, hopefully, if we can get the physicals done, the physical agility tests, the background checks, all that, and then they give notice. So we're still.
While they're doing that, Mike, are they getting paid though?
No.
Already, no. So until they're actually ready to.
Until they walk
Yeah.
through the door. Yeah, they don't, and all of that is on their time.
So when you gave us the number of roughly 70,000, was that 70,000 would be the number for the full fiscal year?
Yep.
So you're really looking at less if they don't, could be a couple of months, right? So July, August, September.
Yeah.
So it really could be 3/4 of the year, so it might be 3/4 of the 70,000?
Yeah, but the variable is if we can get somebody to slide over from another department.
Yeah.
We'd bring them in at a
Okay.
higher step. So roughly it's 75, 65. I could, the 5 to 7,000 I can make up in my
It all
budget.
depends on how you fill the position.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
But you feel comfortable going forward after this year, that because of that conversion with Medicare, Medicaid, that could add revenue to the department to support.
Yeah, I think we could sustain it.
A full-time firefighter.
Yep.
Before we go to set, though, Paige, it comes around through you, your budget too. Your opinion? Or?
Well, again, I'm in a challenging position because I understand the principles and, Marie's principles and sort of what the whole rules around free cash are, so I totally understand that. I guess, well, two things is we were showing my budget did show an $800,000 use of free cash. So this is still a little bit less. I think where, the bleeding heart side of me, and we've talked about this, I think, Doc, months ago, is it's our public safety officials who literally blood, sweat, and tears up at that stadium. They are there all night, at these events, 2 nights in a row, a couple times a week. They're there till 3 in the morning and they're back here at 8 in the morning. So I think that, and you've kind of heard me lament the fact that we get all this money from the stadium and all of it is one-time revenue, even though we can count on a lot of it. So we can never use it for salaries. And that makes it hard because it's literally on the backs of these guys. I mean, the Army, Navy, World Cup, all the things. So I do worry about, with these size of events that we're getting ready to host and that we have hosted, I do have concerns that the level of stress we're putting on this team and, the public safety teams. So that makes me go, well, could we swing it? So I guess I want to respect the process, the financial process, and I'm going to respect the townspeople and the board and take the sort of lazy way out. Is like I put forward my budget, but I'm not going to die on that sword. If the people, compellingly feel that their public safety is important, then, chances are the money is there to a degree, but it does go against the financial principles that, we all kind of follow. So it's a tough call.
I think Dennis.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, and what I said, I'm not trying to be an alarmist. I think, in fact, you're doing a miraculous job holding it all together, and there hasn't been a serious incident. But as you really pointed out, very good presentation. It's all about risk-benefit.
Right.
And really, it's like, at what point does the risk outweigh the benefit? And I think we're at that point. That's just my opinion.
And that's, just to piggyback off what Paige said, that's an interesting piece that I haven't thought of before, that, the stadium is a big piece of it and it's one-time revenue, but where we really can't use that for salaries. So that helps me, kind of connect the dots on those missing pieces and the things that are really specific to our town and different in the budget process.
So I don't have a lot to add, honestly, but I think local receipts may be, or is expected to be, slightly lower for fiscal year 2025, just based on the timing of certain things. With World Cup another year out, Taylor Swift was actually in 2023, whatever it was. It's hard to, but if we can cover it this year without utilizing additional free cash, I think to Dennis's point, the safety aspect of it is the overriding factor, and I think in future years, starting in 2026, local receipts will cover this, and I firmly believe that free cash should not be utilized for operating, and I'm comfortable that we will not have to do that going forward.
So it sounds like, I don't know if there's more to discuss, or if we're ready for a motion to approve the fiscal year 25 budget set forth by the town manager with the addition of the one firefighter.
I think we're all in agreement.
Is that what we're?
Yeah, so question for Marie. I mean, obviously, you've given us your opinion. So let me just, just say, for number one, I'm for the position. I really am. I just want to make sure we handle the funding correct.
Yep.
So I don't have I don't have any doubt in what Chief is giving us, and the data shows it. What would happen if for some reason we didn't have that extra funding for it and we had to go free cash again? I guess, do you think there's, based on you knowing the numbers somewhat, do you feel comfortable, as you do your job, do you, I know it's this board's decision, but do you feel comfortable if this board were to say, okay, this is just the year to hit the free cash? For your position, do you feel comfortable with us doing that?
So I mean, it's your recommended budget. I can't tell you guys.
I know
what
I'm
to
kind of
do.
putting you on the spot. I
Yeah, no,
guess,
no,
I want to make sure we're following
Yeah.
the best practices too. And I know there are always an exception. So I guess maybe I am kind of putting you on the spot by asking you. I mean, I guess maybe my point is, if we vote this year, so you're gonna, all of a sudden you're gonna go, oh my God, like, you know, like.
Well, I mean, technically, I mean, when you're looking at, you guys are voting on the expense budget, not necessarily the revenue piece of it. We still have, I mean, I'll make it clear, I'm against using free cash for operating. You know, unfortunately, we do have to use it, as I already mentioned. But there are some unknowns. You know, the governor put out her budget, but there are still 3 levels left. Snow and ice budget, we carry a deficit because we do raise that deficit on the next year's tax recap. We have another maybe 3 weeks left, hopefully, if there's no more snow. You know, that number could be adjusted. I don't know if we'll get to the 70,000, you know, outside of bumping up free cash. But I mean, if that's the direction that you're, you know, going to move in, with the understanding that in the future, that money will come from the ambulance fund. We won't go back next year to then say, oh, hey, we need to use free cash again.
I think it is with that understanding.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it is with that understanding.
So we're gonna hold your feet to the fire next year.
Great.
Well, you don't ever want to give a position and then, then all of a sudden, sorry, now we can't fund it, and then someone has come on board and, you know, there's a layoff, or you just say we can't fund it. So, you know, that's the only thing that holds me back.
And the
But
other
I'm-
thing,
I'm
too,
comfortable with it.
which we haven't talked about, you know, if we do, again, fingers crossed, like no more snow and ice, you know, get this building on Main Street as the new community center. My understanding is, you know, would be out maybe, you know, $20,000, but the rest of that would be bonded for fiscal year. Like we're not worried about if that piece of the puzzle also comes together. It does impact it, and we talked about it last time, but based on how I think we're setting up the timing of that, I think we'll be okay to be able to bond that post-town meeting and be good there.
Yes, as long as you, that payment, say, assuming that the town ends up, you know, purchasing that building, if that payment falls after July 1st, then we don't have to worry about any short-term interest that we might have to pay.
And that's the way that we're planning it, is just if it works out, that payment would be, you know, after town meeting, you know, after July 1st.
Yeah, and you could do it as a package, essentially, assuming that the DPW facility and the police locker room, you could do all those in a package for
So that's just something we
25,
talked
yeah.
about last time, to making sure we talk through, you know, and understand and are okay as well, you know, to be able to pay the bill.
Yeah, but I mean, we still have, I mean, when does the town meeting warrant need to be finalized?
Now, so it'll go to the select board April 12th to sign.
Oh, okay. So we might, you know, a few more things might become clearer by that point. But I mean, my intent is, you know, obviously I recognize the need, I support it, I just don't agree with the free cash. But if, like I said, if these other unknowns become knowns and we can stay away from bumping up free cash again, then I would suggest that we do that.
Yeah, I think no one wants to increase the free cash, but it sounds like we could do it within the free cash that we've budgeted under the town manager's budget.
Right, but Marie, I think what Marie's saying is if, for example, snow and ice doesn't take a big, we might end up being able to not use free cash.
Okay.
We wouldn't end up going back up. We could use some of those savings that we learn in the next month could be applied towards that $70,000, thereby you know, even keeping the free cash usage
even
down.
less.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and we have it at 685 right now, free cash.
Yeah, I think no one wants to, you know, keep increasing that. So that's the theme of where we're still going, even with this discussion and with adding something. So I don't want to speak for the board, but it sounds like we're at a place that we're ready for a motion to approve the fiscal year budget set forth by the town manager with the addition of the additional firefighter.
Correct. So move. Oh,
Second.
any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Well, appreciate it.
Thanks. Oh, we still have the CIP too. I don't know if you
Yeah,
want to
we
stay
do.
there, Marie.
Bring Brandon up for that one.
Yeah.
He's in charge of CIP over there.
Okay.
I mean, I could speak to it. So we did have our CIP meeting. March 2nd, I think it was March 2nd. And in your board docs, you'll see that we did approve. So for tonight, we're just going to do FY25. We're going to do FY24 at the next meeting. But we did, if you look on your board docs, you'll see that there was a summary of capital improvement requests. And it was a very productive meeting on March 2nd. I think Chris Gallagher is still on the screen. He's the hero. He deferred one of his purchases till later, and that put us in line with the budget, so we didn't have to all go to fisticuffs.
Thanks, Chris.
So the grand total of CIP requests, there's Chris, the hero. He saved the day. Saved an hour at least off the meeting, I would say. That's the truth. On a Saturday morning, that's worth its weight in gold. So I don't know if do you want me to go through some of these, or you all can read them? I mean.
I read it.
Yeah, I read it.
It's a long list. Yeah, it's a long list.
And can we publish it somewhere in case people want to see it, obviously? Like,
Sure. We can get it out there, yep.
Yeah, go with the motion.
Okay. All right, motion to approve the fiscal year 25 capital requests.
Second?
Any further discussion?
Yeah, so it's almost 38 million?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I looked at it, this is the first time I looked at it, but I was kind of like, so I know we have the DPW building here, but,
2 buildings.
No, they're not, yeah.
well, the big 16 million, right? So
Yep.
is there something, what else? Oh, okay, the treatment.
14
All
million
right.
for the PFAS.
So we're looking to bond like 30 million? Is that right?
14 is a SRF loan, so that's a 0% loan from the state. And that's being paid out of water receipts. So you're looking at the 16 million, which could potentially be higher for the DPW facility, assuming that the town wins the bidding war for the church. That we have 1,550,000 because that's the list price right now, but that number could change assuming we get to that point.
So that's in with
And then there's
that's in with the DPW number, the
Yeah.
building number.
And then there's 750 for the police locker room.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess I wasn't expecting, were we around 7 million is what we had? 7 or 8 is what was in free cash?
But out of this 37 million, we're using, it's 2,919,446 from free cash. So there is 18.3 million that will be bonded, assuming those 3 projects.
That's the next page, Steph, if you click on the next page.
Funding, yeah, the
Okay.
funding is broken out on the next
Okay,
page.
yep, okay,
We wanted to stay under 3 million for the free cash.
okay.
That's, Chris allowed us to be able to
Yeah.
do that.
All right, I think, and so a couple of quick comments. I think we just have to remember, even though we say it's being paid by water, that is paid by the taxpayers. The taxpayers pay the water too. So that's not a money tree in the backyard. I mean, listen, it has to go to town meeting. I just think we're laying a lot of, I don't know, my time on AdCom and then here, I don't think I've ever seen such a big number. And we were roughly the same time. I mean, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, I agree. So, when you think about the 3 pieces of real estate in this plan, one of them is right now listed at 1.55, which is the church on Main Street. The next 2 buildings are at least 10 times that amount, or around 10 times that amount. So I think what is going to be critical, if not right now, as we move forward with the process, is for Chris and team to let the community know what we're getting for $14 and $16 million. And I know there's plans, and I know we've had the assessments and all the work's been done, but making sure that it's clear that when we spend $16 million for the DPW renovations, here's the reason it's 10 times more than what's on Main Street. And this building, the structure is customized with all this special equipment. Here's what this costs. So sort of a breakdown of the components, so that people are not just saying, well, 16 million, 14, is this right? I mean,
Yeah.
where did they come from? And just give a little bit more support to what we're buying here.
Yeah, I guess maybe the only other even thought I had is so we don't get people to jump on. We know the need, Chris is right there. We know the need for that building. I'm not questioning need of anything. We know the need for possibly obtaining the church for the community center. I mean, it's not that there's not a need, but I'm just wondering if by next year, the Taylor, you're talking a possible another $17 to $20 million, if it's similar to the borough. So it's a lot of money in 2 years' time. So my fear is, I mean, I don't know. I mean, unfortunately, I didn't watch the meeting, so I'm going to say that right up front, to hear the discussion. I just hope that we don't get a big fat no at town meeting for this, because I know it's all stuff that's needed. It's just a lot of money, and I think there has been discussion about the Taylor coming right behind this.
And am I understanding it correct, and let me know if I'm way off base, but, we would expect a bigger amount this year because of what we're bonding, because of what's falling off. So you're gonna see it in cycles like this,
Yeah.
like this is coming off, okay, so now there's a bigger slot to fill, and this is a year with a bigger slot.
For this year, going into this.
What was that again, sorry?
What's the off number
What
going
fell off?
into? How much, what's that?
So, of the debt service, I don't know off the top of my head, I wanna say,
Or even, didn't the Adjourn fall off, like, even if we know what the
'cause you
projects
have-
are?
It's lining up, so when you have, so these projects would need to be funded via a debt exclusion. And the way that you should line those up is you should aim to, or target to do another debt exclusion when another one's falling off. And in fiscal year '25, we'll have, I wanna say maybe it's $500,000 or so that's essentially dropping off. And if you'll recall with the debt exclusion, the town authorizes, or the residents authorize, actually I have it right here. So that was close. We have $594,000, and this is actually in FY '26. So these are current debt excluded projects that are falling off. And when you have a debt excluded project that's approved by the taxpayers, the town is, so you have your levy limit that you can't tax above that dollar amount. But when you have a debt exclusion, you're allowed to go up higher than that dollar amount, but only for the amount of the debt service. So if these projects were all to get approved, our first debt service payment would fall in fiscal year '26, which is when that $594K is dropping off. And what we would do as well, once town meeting takes a vote, even before then actually, we would have our financial advisors essentially do a debt service schedule and calculate the impact to the taxpayers.
So do you think right now we're somewhat even, what's coming off, what's coming on? Like, similar? You don't have to give me an exact number. Like,
The impact will be a lot less than if we didn't have that much falling off.
So that was my understanding, is like by design, like this was the year that we knew it was time to like, okay, this is the timing that's right for a bigger project.
Yeah, and the next big drop off will be, you have in fiscal year '28, you have 238,000 dropping off, and then the next one will be in 2031, where another 540,000 is dropping off. And these are all debt excluded projects.
So, and the only other question I had, I've had a couple of people kind of, and of course, it's at that 1.5 number. Is there any way we would think to use free cash to pay for the new community center? Or a portion of it?
You could potentially, assuming that, the town is able to purchase that property with the selling of the other property, you could use the combination of that and some free cash to pay for maybe the renovations that come along. I think those are like 600,000.
800, up to 800, yeah.
Up to 800,000.
Worst case. And a majority of that sewer, which is, that we're not sure what will happen with that.
Okay, yeah. For me, I just saw the big number and I was like, holy cow. But I will say that other than the borough coming on, like when we were on AdCom, the Ahern and stuff was, way before. I wasn't even, I really didn't even sit back and say to myself, oh yeah, that's right, stuff is coming off.
That's what I've always been
Yeah.
hearing, like 25
Yeah.
is when we're gonna have this,
Yeah.
this pocket of availability with stuff
Yeah.
coming off, for the last few years.
Yeah.
And it's the public safety debt that's falling off and some of the school debt as well.
The Ahern, I feel like that was one.
It doesn't say here,
Okay.
but it says school.
Yeah, I think it was the Ahern renovation, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, though.
And just so you know, we are preparing, Marie and I were speaking today, is, once we get some firm numbers, or more firm numbers on some of these projects, we will be doing those scenarios where, so when the voter comes, it's like, if you approve, this, and this, the average tax bill would go up this much. Or if you only do these two, it's kind of doing a plug and play so folks can figure out exactly their impact. And we should also, hearing this, talk about what the bill would be when the debt falls, so a true comparison, while your bill today is this, it's only going to go up this much because this will have fallen off, and we're going to really try to share that information.
Yeah.
We're also going to
Perfect,
try to
because-
highlight, like Chris and I are going to go do a cable show at the DPW facility to sort of highlight the reasons why, like just a 15-minute video to run on Foxborough cable so that folks, when they're falling asleep at night, or if they want to just keep an eye, see what's going on, they can.
Need help falling asleep?
Yeah, exactly. What do you mean? There's a lot of interesting things out there.
Just kidding.
Yeah, that's a CIP meeting.
It's all good stuff. I'm not
is.
questioning the need or any, it's just, it's hard to look at that number.
Can I just add something as well? So the dollar amount is large, and it's because of our town charter. The CIP committee has to essentially look at any project that's 25,000 or greater, 5 years, greater useful life. What's actually going to town meeting as part of the CIP budget is $4,611,000. And then the DPW facility, the locker room, and this potential church purchase would be their own separate articles. So by you essentially approving this plan, that's not saying that you're approving the bonding. That requires a town meeting ballot vote as well. But I just wanted to note that 37 million is high, but really the capital plan is 4,611,000.
4,611,000.
And the timing of the PFAS treatment plant, that's critical now. It's more than a nice to have, right?
Yeah, Chris has been talking about that PFAS for a long time.
Yeah, right.
Unfunded mandate, too.
Yeah.
All right, people get that.
So that's part of the story, right?
All right, so motion to approve the fiscal year 25 capital requests as presented.
Second.
We just had a discussion. All those approved? Great. Thank you. All right. Town managers update.
Oh, boy, I better find my update. It's in here somewhere.
Oh, do you need this?
Yep, this is her highlights.
No, well, I'll take that, but that's not my update. Here we go. There it is. Thank you. Okay, so town meeting, we're going to be talking a lot about that. That's coming up on May 13th. Just so you know, one of the articles that we've mentioned, the 131 Moore Street Summit Casting Project, that has been pulled from the warrant at the recommendation of town council. So stay tuned for that. And then the community forum that we were planning on March 25th is actually, the Board of Health still wants to move forward with it to discuss that, but that's going to be held on April 22nd, tentatively, as of right now. So make note of that if you're interested. I did just mention we're going to be making some brief videos, and that's because we have so many major articles on town meeting. We just thought it might be helpful to have like 10, 15-minute vignettes, sort of like, here it is. And the joke about falling asleep is that when I was in Rentham and did all my zoning, I used to do with the moderator, and I would do like a Q&A about all the zoning articles, and everybody would come up to me later and be like, that was the best. I fell asleep watching it, But it was amazing the traction it got, because I found out a lot of people go to sleep to local access TV. Who knew? With 30 articles, it's possible that town meeting will be 2 nights. As of right now, after talking to the moderator and the town clerk, it looks like it would be 2 consecutive nights. So it would be, first night is a definite, May 13th. It would have to be on May 14th, the second night, which typically you'd want to split it up to give everybody a break, but it doesn't work the following week. So it looks like May 13th and 14th, unless we could be really quick and get it done in one night. One of the questions I wanted to ask you all is, we do think that order of warrant articles matters in this instance. For example, the seniors, when I was speaking to the seniors, you know, if the church ends up being on the, we have a placeholder right now for that, and if we end up going forward with that, they've requested that that be not too late at night. So things like that. And then if we have a second night, I would say strategically, we want to make sure we have something that draws people in, like I was thinking MBTA communities or something like that, so that we're not putting all the heavy stuff at the one night and then we get nobody the second night. So I didn't know if the whole board, or if you want me to work with one of you to try to come up with this order. I talked to Frank Spillane, and he's glad to work with us, but he just kind of said, you know, it's probably best the board do it. So I don't know if you want to do it as a board, you want to do it as a designee.
I mean,
Thoughts?
one big thing we've been talking about for years, and I know last year we didn't roll it out because there was a feeling that there wasn't enough time, is not reading through the entire budget with every single funding source. So I know that
That's a Frank thing.
No, but when I talked to Frank about it last year, and he's not here, so I don't want to put words in his mouth, it sounded like he was open to it, but he wanted to give enough notice to people that we would maybe be making that change. So, when I was
Should
chair
we
at that
invite
time,
Frank
we had
in?
agreed to come back to revisit it with the right, acknowledgement to people. So I think those discussions need to start happening now with Frank rather than later as well.
I would say definitely talk to him. I would say, just as a former AdCom member, so that gives people a chance to voice on a certain thing. What you don't want to happen is, if they can't do that, you don't want them to vote no on the entire one. So I mean,
or maybe it's just
I would say-
not reading the budget. Maybe it's just saying funding source as presented. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle as a happy medium. But when we're reading the same funding sources over and over again on every single line, is there even some kind of minor time save that, I've heard from people, like, you go to town meeting and the first hour is literally just sitting there listening to someone read something. And I know there's an importance to it, but where do we find a balance in today's age to make sure that we're using people's time wisely who are coming out to town meeting, balancing it with people that do want to speak up and talk about pieces of the budget, and making sure that people that do have questions about the budget, please don't save it for on town meeting floor. Please start to have some of those discussions, come in, talk to us, talk to department heads. Let's not have those conversations for the first time on town meeting floor.
I'm guessing, as chair, you probably have the privilege to read the budget. Usually the chair reads it.
Never did.
You? You bagged out of that. You give it to, Bernard is always good. I was going to say maybe you might have a thought on. I agree with you.
Invite Frank in to meet, because he did volunteer to come in at some point and talk to you all about, like, what night. This is when we were trying to decide which night to hold the second night, but now we don't have a choice. Do you want Frank to come in, and do you want to daylight this issue and talk about it, or?
Well, I think we could talk about it with him on the side first.
Okay.
Especially if someone's getting together and we're trying to figure out the order.
Well, I think less about that, the order. I think it's more Leah's point of.
But if we're getting together anyway, I mean, does the whole board want to be involved with the order?
No,
Or do you-
no. But I think that the two go together, that we should talk
Right.
about the order, and we should talk about how we're more.
So I'll work with you with the order, me, you, and Frank.
Okay, perfect.
And I was part of those conversations last year, so I'm happy to come in and,
We'll use Leah as our heavy. She's going to be
Yeah.
our muscle.
Yeah, sounds good.
We like that.
So
we talk to
I want
AdCom?
to apologize. I didn't want you to think I was walking, as soon as we started town manager's update. I have a little family thing
Yeah, no, go ahead.
going
Go
on.
ahead.
So
Yeah, of course.
I want to stay for the important stuff,
Yeah.
but I didn't want you to think I was walking out during the middle of your
No,
town
no.
manager.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, we'll shut you down.
So town council is
Oh,
retiring.
wait a minute, did you have a,
No, I was just wondering if AdCom should be consulted in terms of what they would be comfortable with.
Definitely, I think they should be part of that discussion as well.
Okay.
'Cause they may have some good ideas about streamlining it themselves,
yeah?
Yeah.
so.
Be a good
Get
idea.
the chair in too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll add that to our list. Okay, town council is retiring. Pat Costello has let us know that he will be retiring as of June 30th, so that's going to be quite an adjustment. your board is the one that appoints town council, just so you know. We have gone ahead and we're working with Pat to come up with an RFP. We think, it is not subject to procurement, outright 30B procurement, but we do think that it makes sense to go in an open process. We did ask Jamie Kenny, and we also asked Pat Costello for their recommendations, but in the interim, we're getting ready to sort of go public. What I wanted to know is if, again, in the essence of time, I didn't know if someone wanted to work with me on getting the RFP finalized and get that out, and then we'll plan on bringing people, firms in for you all to interview. But I'd rather not wait till the next meeting to get the RFP out, so I didn't know if, Pat wrote it, it's already pretty much done. Chatham did the same one, actually, because he also works with them. So it's pretty pro forma. We just might want to look a little bit about some of the tweaks about like the stadium and what. So I didn't know if any one of you wanted to be kind of my teammate on that. It's really just a review, and then we'll get it out there on the street and then see what we get. It takes about a month of, RFP responses, so.
Who wants to pretend to be an attorney?
I would be willing to do that as long as it's, wrapped up in the next month, understanding that my term is coming to a close, but, obviously open to anyone else doing it, but that is something.
I was gonna say, it sounds kind of like a Leah thing.
Seth, I actually wrote Leah question right here, but I didn't want to jump that gun.
One big hurrah, yes.
Yeah, we'll put her to work on her way out of town,
Yes.
right? Oh, yeah, the door.
No lame duck here.
No. Okay, so we have a couple ARPA projects underway, North Street water main, water meters and encoders, Ahern School chiller, Cocasset River Recreation Area, and the Walnut Street Sewer Extension Plan. So we've been busy planning and spending our ARPA funds. As Dennis kind of mentioned, we were surprised yesterday when Congressman Auchincloss announced that we received a grant we submitted several years ago. So we received $959,752 for the sewer portion of the Walnut Street project, so that was quite a pleasant surprise. Thank you to the congressman for that. One of the things Doc, Katie, and I have been kicking around is, or that came up recently, was talking about parking at an upcoming meeting. We have two things. One is the idea has been raised from several parties as to whether the per space parking fee for the satellite lots out on Route 1, whether that fee should increase. Right now, it's $7. I think it has been for a while. Has it been that for a while?
Yeah.
There's been discussion that the fees to park have gone way up, but the town has not increased their fees. I know Walpole and Foxborough charge the same. Walpole's interested in increasing their rate. So I'm sure that's not going to be very well received by the parking lot owners. So I wanted to bring that up publicly here. So I didn't know if the board wanted to take that up publicly at an upcoming meeting. And then the other thing that I brought up, and again, I need to just find time to work on it, is the 15 to 17 Market Street. I went for a walk today, and that's looking really close to done. It looks like other people are parking there. It's not even just Doug King construction vehicles over there. So I feel like we're going to want to address that as to are you going to allow overnight parking there? Is there any limit, as commercial parking? My fear is that it could just become, long-term parking for certain people that live near there or whatnot. So I didn't know. I've been trying to do some Google searches. I'm having a heck of a time finding good policies that don't involve parking meters and parking permits and enforcement things we're not set up for. But I didn't know if any of you had any thoughts and if you wanted to entertain a parking discussion in a future meeting.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do that. The bench applications are still being accepted, just for the people at home. It's on the website. Deadline is hopefully the end of March, so that we can get that project going. And then Walnut Street, I mentioned the grant funding, and we expect construction to start on the infrastructure and the housing project this spring. So it is a go. Paige Eppolito has been running training programs for our staff. It's great to now be back in action and getting our regular trainings. Tomorrow is management training. We're doing interviews for Veteran Services Office. I believe there was an offer made to the part-time human resources specialist today. I believe she accepted. Still looking for a water tech, I believe, and the director of land use and economic development is going horribly. There's nobody right now, so.
Big shoes to fill.
Yes. The South Street, Cedar Street water main project is on hold, waiting for the state to allow a pipe to go down across 495. And then, what was my other notes here? Town meeting, I already mentioned, council, yep, ARPA, okay, I have all that. Around town, we have permits for the Foxborough Horseshoe League, starts May 4th, ends August 21st. The games are Thursdays at 71 Elm Street from 6:30 to 9. The Farmers Market's gonna start May 30th, it'll go through September 5th, every Thursday from 4 to 8. And then the Boyden Library's Teddy Bear Picnic is on July 10th on the Town Common from 6 to 8. That's all I have.
Awesome. Selectmen update, anybody have anything? Someone just won.
I think that's on here, girls basketball advances to the did you add that while we're in the meeting?
No, that's what they were doing tonight.
Oh, okay,
Oh, I
so they
think they
won.
won.
They won that game. They won that
the
game.
Quarterfinals, okay.
Yeah, and cheer won the 2024 Winter Small Co-ed States.
Saw that on the Rodman sign walking here. Anybody else have anything for Selectmen update?
Go Warriors.
All right. Action items?
Oh, and thank you to Jim Evans, who has served as our hog rig since 1992, since he was a selectman. We've decided to retire that position once we vote on. So I don't know who's going to manage the town pound now, but I don't think it's in use very
The
much.
hog pound?
The dog pound.
No, yeah. All right, so we have a couple action items. So Veteran Services, motion to accept a donation to Veteran Services Department for the retired flag lockage drop-off slots in the amount of $526.05.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
All right, so
One more thing, Katie, note that Steph had left with the vote. It's 4-0.
As I just mentioned, motion to disband the hog reeve appointment with many thanks to Jim Evans for his years of dedicated service.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
All right, and we have an extended hours application, so motion to approve extended hours for Renaissance Hotel at Patriot Place and Hilton Garden at Patriot Place at 28 Patriot Place to serve alcohol on Sunday, March 31st, Easter, and Sunday, May 12th, starting at 11 a.m.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Just under further discussion, so they don't have every Sunday already. I thought that the Renaissance did. No?
No, that's why I pushed.
Okay, yeah. All right, great.
All right, all those in favor?
All right, and then motion to approve Board of Selectmen meeting minutes from February 27th, 2024.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
And motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Good night, everybody.